just 7-6 left. Freiburg goes for the kill. He's going to pick it up. If just exists survives, he's going to win the round. There's no time. Oh my God, Freiburg, are you kidding me? Because of it. It's going to be weird.
Hello everyone and welcome to another edition of By the Numbers. That's Alphadraft CSGO show. I am your host Richard Lewis, and with me as always every week we've got the best analyst in the CSGO world who will be having a weekend off. It is of course Duncan Thorin Shields. How are you doing, brother? You all right?
Yeah, I'm all right. I mean, well, if I didn't have this weekend off, if I was at ESL One Cologne and I was like one of those sort of hosts who doesn't actually know anything about eSports, but just loves being on camera, getting money and getting blowjobs from fluffers from ESL, I'd probably be like, welcome to the #1 CSGO show, and here's the man in the know. Here he goes, Duncan Thorin Sugar. Like, you know what I mean? Like, and
that's what I had written down here.
Like, on Reddit, they'd be like, that guy is brilliant. Can he please come back? P.S. We really hate people who don't know about in-game knowledge and that, but can that guy come back again next month? Like, yeah. It's unreal, isn't it?
It's good. It's good. Enjoy having the weekend off. I'm going to be out there. I'm actually looking forward to going and attending an event, just as a spectator, actually, which I haven't done for the longest period of time. I don't know if you've done it at all recently. In your career.
I only ever do it for the Korean ones, if I'm here and there's the finals or something. I've been before, but I haven't been to many esports events just as a fan, actually.
Yeah, so it's going to roll back the years for me. Anyway, look, there is one event that is dominating the skyline. Of course, the major is almost upon us. I think the bulk of the show, if you're up for it, will be sort of based around. I'm going to try and put you in a corner and get some predictions. If that's all right.
Let's do it.
Okay, cool. I mean, I had to do this the other day with Jared, my colleague at the Daily Dot, and yeah, it's actually a lot harder than you think it is. I followed my logical. I set up ground rules at the start, and I went right the way through. And following my rules, it meant envious end up winning the thing. So
I lost
it
your
could
sound
be
there.
different.
What were you saying?
Sorry, just saying that. Yeah, I followed the logical ground rules I set at the start of the predictions, and by following that, it meant that envious were the winners of the whole thing, which I'm guessing you probably don't agree with. So we'll get into that. So what we'll do is we'll do the show the other way around. We'll get into the news first. So let's sort of rewind in everyone's mind. One of the big talking points was Hiko.
Another ESL One style play on words there. Let's rewind in your mind and see what we can find.
Right, you're the man with the plan and king of banana, etc. But anyway, so Hiko has been looking for a new team since Maximum Effort sort of broke apart. That was obviously the ex-Nihilum, Nihilum, whatever, alum team. And
you don't have to say that anymore. Rich.
Yeah, I know. I don't know why I put myself through it again. But since then, it's been a really sort of divisive issue because a lot of people seem to think that the reason that he's not finding a team is, he values himself too high. He's asking for too much money. This is a common perception in the CSGO community. Another group of people think it's like, he's so driven to win. He absolutely has to find the right team and be with the right players and only players that can win. And I personally believe the truth lies somewhere in between. But he has been acting as a stand-in for Team Liquid, and we didn't get time to talk about this last show. So I want to just pick your brains about this. I know you're I won't use the term fan. I know you are an enthusiast of Hiko's career. You are a proponent of Hiko as a player. So what do you think about him currently trying out with Team Liquid, and do you think this would be a good fit if it worked out?
Yeah, the thing is, of the teams that are available, bearing in mind it isn't an option to go to Cloud9 for obvious reasons, like the history and the fact they've got a lineup that you've no reason to change. Yeah, of the teams that are available, I actually think Liquid is the best option. I mean, one of the statements that made C9 fans go mad was when C9 was at the first tournament that they did well at, ESL ESEA Pro League, after they won the first upset over Envious, not after they'd won the second and after they made the playoffs and made the final and all that stuff, after only having like a best of one upset, I made the statement that I still think the best NA lineup would have been if Hiko had made the team where it would have been essentially this one, but with Skadoodle, where he was going to get them to leave Liquid, and it would have been him, Skadoodle, Adren, Nitro, and Fugly, I think was the lineup. And I said, like, I thought that could have been the best lineup, because at this point in time, we didn't know how good Cloud9 was going to be. And it turned out, obviously, they actually exceeded even what I imagined that proposed Skadoodle, Hiko, Liquid lineup would have done. I wouldn't have thought they would be as good as that. So, bearing in mind his options, realistically, there aren't many good teams at the moment in NA. Really, the only two you have an option between is CLG or Liquid. And the problem with CLG is they've repeatedly shown this tendency that they're not going to change from the core lineup they have in as much as the other players. Like, they've played together for so long that apparently they are either in denial or just refuse to accept certain flaws. And so as a result, even if he joins that team, okay, it's I think CLG is better than Liquid right now, but the difference is it's where's the upside for that team. Say he joins that team now, even if he plays super lights out, which is unlikely, he's not in his best form, they're only going to get marginally better. So they're still not going to make top fours of teams. They're still not going to win any best of 3 series over a big team. The difference with the Liquid team is everyone has looked at this Liquid lineup over the last 6 months and been like, they should be so much better. This piece is good. This guy's good. Like it feels like there's quality pieces there. There's not getting it, not managing to get it done. So I do still think of the teams, this is the best option, Liquid. And in terms of the thing you said at the beginning, how are people characterizing the move? The biggest problem, here's the biggest thing I would emphasize on this move, that all the moves that Hiko's done, okay, all the ones he's done, right back to the iBuy Power super team and not joining Cloud9 again, this is the core principle you have to understand. The first and foremost is that he wants a team where it has a chance to be a lot better than all these teams are now. Now, we're excluding Cloud9 now because they already are a lot better. But think of where all the other NA teams still are. Like, CLG can upset a top team on one map. Liquid can't even win a map against Euros most of the time. So he doesn't want to join one of these teams, be ever slightly better, and win 2 best-of-1 maps, but still go out in the round of 8. He wants to be on a team that could be a top 5 team in the world. So, yes, after that, here's where I think it gets tricky, okay? Then you realize a lot of these moves he's making are to do with money. Well, it's because, think about this, if you don't have the option to do that, then at that point, finishing 5th to 8th and finishing 9th to 16th, there's not really a whole lot between that. There's not really a whole lot. So at that point in time, if that's your choice, finish 6th to 12th, now you might take money as your primary factor. At this point in time, why go the other way? You're not giving up money to get better success, because it'll only be like winning one map more. So I think I've kind of given my overview of like the whole landscape I see there. Like, I think initially it is about winning, but then when winning isn't an option, which at the moment it isn't, then money does come into it and become like that kind of like balances the other way, I think.
Yeah, I mean, look. So let's talk about money, right? I know you like money. Alphadraft like giving us money. We know a thing or two.
That's what I like about Alphadraft so much,
mate. I rode the waves of the Raheem scandal to sucker everyone with a Patreon. It's brilliant, right? So I'm like the Anita Sarkeesian of Counterstrike. I'm surprised someone hasn't said that, actually. But anyway,
you should set up your own site like Patreon called Martyr, and then just outline all the ways that everyone's wronged you for all those years, and be like, so won't you pay me to continue in this business?
The logo will just be me on a cross, like with a single tear, maybe of blood, right? Just like that, But anyway, so here's the thing, right? I don't get why people think getting as much money as you can is a fucking bad thing. Like, I gotta say, like, the kids who were criticizing Hiko would literally suck a dick for an AWP Asimov, you know what I mean? Like, and they're fucking criticizing Hiko for maximizing his career earnings. Now, so first of all, that's a ridiculous logical approach to everything. Like, Spencer is in his mid-20s now, not getting any younger. The sad reality is, with CSGO being the way it is, he's already in the twilight of his career. Now, he's got to get, his next few transfers, if you like, they have to be significant if he's to maximize his earnings over his, career potential. And he's played in NA, where we know there wasn't a lot of money anyway. So, like, him thinking in financial terms isn't even a bad thing by any means. I don't know if people think I've ever believed that, because, I've been the guy writing about how sometimes the moves have been a stumbling block because of salary. But he's got to get as much as he can, as quickly as he can. Now, the only problem I would say is the reason you haven't seen Hiko in action quite as much is because he signed with Twitch. He became a Twitch partner. So he's already got a high-paying day job. Like that security sort of takes the pressure off to just sign for any old shit team and play, you know, or to just accept the first contract offer. Gives you like, if you don't need money when you're negotiating for money, you've got so much extra leverage. Just ask Sir Scoots, fucking multi-millionaire, you know. When he's doing a hosting gig, I really don't need the money, man. Oh yeah, I think. Did you? Sorry, guys, it's not me.
Just when you said the Sir Scoots thing again, just say it again.
Yeah. All right. So I was just saying, Scoot. You know, it's like Scoots, right? He's a fucking multi-millionaire. So when it comes to negotiating, you know, a fee for like an event, he says, "I don't need the money, man. I don't need the money, man." And like, you know, people have to pay top dollar to get him to do things, or he can just pick and choose what projects he wants to do. He's in a great place, and that's what kind of where I see Hiko right now. You know, but it's also a bit disingenuous to pretend that Hiko is only doing this because he wants to be on the best team. Cloud9 offered to build a secondary team around Hiko and pay for the full thing and bankroll it, give him a great salary, and of course he turned that down. So it clearly was something personal going on as well. It's not just about excellence and putting a team together. But
well, you know, I mean, listen. Let's be real for a second.
Yeah.
What I don't understand about what you just said there is the part where it's like when you're referencing Cloud9 here, bear in mind you're essentially saying that Cloud9 would be a second team. So it wouldn't be any of the players who are on Cloud9 now, presumably Hiko, Skadoodle, and then whoever he wants, okay? Yeah. So, okay, I accept that part, okay, which is what he was trying to do anyway, remember, was him and Skadoodle going to make a team. So he was trying to do that anyway. But for everyone listening, I just want to clarify that he's not saying Hiko should have joined Cloud9, therefore they would be the best team. Because first of all, Hiko, like everyone else, including Cloud9, didn't know how good Cloud9 would be. So that wasn't like the option that he was an idiot for turning down. No one knew that, you know?
Yeah, exactly. No, but I agree with you. But you know, the point is, like, he... From what was said at the time, it was that he wanted the manager out, Trey or whatever his name was, and I don't think he wanted to play with nothing anymore. Sure. I think those were the two big factors, the big stumbling blocks. And he confronted the team and kind of like, you know, whenever you're in this position, like, okay, it's him or me, and they go, okay, well, I'm picking him. Yeah, fuck. You know, and you know, Hiko was suddenly in the Cloud9 friend zone. So I understand why he didn't want to go back there, you know. But equally, he could have built the team that he wanted in the Cloud9 organization and had it all paid for.
Although actually, as far as I can tell now, it's been implied recently. We didn't know this at the time, so this isn't relevant to whether he could have done that. It's been implied recently that won't be allowed because the Luminosity owner claims that if he could have had two teams, he would have kept the NA team and got Keith Stars. So it's been implied that maybe now it's not allowed to do that. So maybe it is like a Riot type situation where you can't have two teams in case they throw to each other or whatever. Just as an aside, you know.
Yeah, quite possibly. Although again, I don't think we've had any official word on that from Valve or anything. But you know, just getting back to Hiko, so it's like, you know, I do think he sort of painted himself into a corner. And let's not forget, right? I mean, I can understand him being a little bit pissed off at me because he'd already signed with the iBuyPower guys. That was going to be the NA Super Team. And there's no doubt in my mind that had that team been playing, they would have been better than Cloud9, hands down. But of course, when that ban came in, Hiko basically lost what should have been the #1 team in NA. So he had it sort of cruelly snatched away from him. And since then, ultimately, I think he's been slumming it a little. Now, the only reason, last time, hopefully we ever have to talk about them, Neelam, were able to fucking bring Hiko in, apparently, and I found this out when I was digging into the Kinguin story about why they're withdrawing sponsors, is the money was coming from Kinguin for basically Hiko's salary. And he was on a higher salary to the other players in the team, apparently. So that right there was why I don't think he would have gone and played for them if it wasn't for the fact that Kinguin were basically going to personally fund his involvement with the team. So when Kinguin started scaling back, that's ultimately why that team fell apart, because there wasn't the money to keep Hiko there ultimately. So when you know, so it's like, I don't know, dude. It's kind of a little bit from column A and a little bit from column B for me. Like I would love to see him settle down and settle on a team, but I don't think it's necessarily gonna happen anytime soon. And I think Team Liquid, again, like, it's always gonna be in the back of his mind Like, oh, fuck, I'm playing with these guys. I could have been playing with these guys. You know, it's like getting a runners-up medal. You know, yeah, it's great. You were second place. You get a stand on the podium. But, you know, you think, fuck, I could have had gold, you know? A few extra seconds.
The thing about Hiko's career, though, that doesn't make sense to a normal fan, I understand why this is that you have to understand the part that Richard said about how old Hiko is, and you have to understand how long he's played Counterstrike. He was there at the end of 1.6. He's played at the top level, in theory, of Counterstrike Go from the entire time the game's been out. So we're talking like almost 3 years at this point in time. This is a guy where he's not someone who just thinks, hey, it'd be fun to play in a team and maybe have a chance to go to a LAN. He's done that a million times. So since the high point of his career is making like the semi of a major, making the round of 8 of 2 majors after that, unless it's better than that, what's the point? To him, at least. He doesn't want to put in hours of slog just to hopefully one day get back to the level of being in the round of 8 of a major. He wants to have a chance to go beyond that, to accomplish something more in his career, you know. So to him, to other players, it's true. If you're a young guy, like a simple type guy, a 20-year-old, 19-year-old, whatever, well, he's actually 17, but you know what I mean? That sort of young guy, you just want to play still. And listen, if you don't have success now, okay, it'll come in the future. I'll get another team. I'll show myself now. Hiko's not at the beginning of his career trying to prove himself to other people. He's trying to get a good situation now. And as he mentioned there, since he's already got tons of money from streaming and all these sick industry connections and all the rest of it, it's also no point just grinding away like that. It's not like the money they can offer him is more than he can get elsewhere. That's actually not the case. So the economics don't also add up. What's weird about this is there's some sort of weird sentiment underlying all of this where fans will say weird shit like, oh, that person's so greedy, and do they think they're better than everyone else? They'll say that about people. So essentially, like them, people in the same position as them, people's rights, individuals' rights to salary and work situations, yet they have no problem bending over and taking it up from the arse from every company in esport. And if a company in esport like steals money, is shown to be total cunts, like when Valve just take like nearly all the money and barely give us anything, and can't even be asked to roll out another thing to give them more money and barely give us anything, people will say stuff like, well, that much makes sense, you know, they are a big company. Big companies are supposed to try and make as much money as they can. So apparently companies can do whatever they want. Companies, remember, filled with individuals making all these choices. They can do whatever they want. They can fuck all of us because a company is like a robot to everyone else that just makes all the money, and we don't make any judgment about what they do. But when a person, the same sort of entity that's making the choices in those companies, does this, suddenly they're scum, and you know they think they're better than the rest of us. First of all, Hiko is better than the rest of us in as much as he has like situations work-wise that the rest of the players don't have in NA. And then secondly, it's not like he says like, pay me 1 million only or I will never play. Like here's the thing that is, this is exactly why it gets presented like this in the media. Because I've seen this happen in real sports. In real sports, when certain players are asking for like maximum money, etc., often the reason why you find out about a deal that didn't go through is because some fucking salty manager who wanted to sign them for like $1 million less, who lost out on the deal and they went somewhere else, purposely leaks all that information so that the PR stories like, oh, this guy's like could have gone to our team, that's better, but he turned it down for only $1 million, you know, he's making 29 instead of 30 if he comes to us. They do that to fuck with the player. And so happens all the time. Yeah. So, but the problem you have to understand there is that it only seems bad because the manager's allowed it to be leaked like that. In reality, these are never sums of money which are out of bounds for these teams. It's not like Hiko goes to Liquid, right? And let's say Liquid has a budget. I'll make up a budget. Let's say they have a budget of 5,000 a month they can pay him, okay? It's not like he goes to them and goes, 15,000 a month or I'll walk. Like, if that was the scenario, there'd be no negotiation. They wouldn't even waste their time leaking it. It'd just be over. What happens is he says an amount that they could pay. They don't necessarily want to pay right now. He says it, and then that's when we get leaks happen, and magically all this stuff goes like that. Which doesn't stop the deal. It just puts certain like pressures on you from the community. What do you think on that? Because it's kind of tying into your story that you did.
No. You're absolutely on point, man. It is pretty much how it goes down. Like, look, this is one of the reasons why, and I'll get onto this point in a little bit, because I think we're going to go to a break very shortly so we can fix the intermittent lag spikes. We've identified the issue. But anyway, just to wrap up this section, one of the things that absolutely has to happen for the industry to go further forward is players have got to know their value. Now, I'd much rather a player was estimating his valuation too high than too low. That's definitely the lesser of two evils. Because what happens is you just enter into a negotiation. And like what's happening with Team Liquid here, I mean, all the evidence points to what I reported being accurate, by the way. Because, why wouldn't they, like Team Liquid wouldn't snap Hiko up immediately. He's a massive improvement on anything they've got. He's certainly an improvement for fucking Flowsick. I mean, let's be real. So why is there any hesitation? I don't think the hesitation's coming from Hiko in the sense that I think he's game to join the team immediately, right? But this is the issue. Hiko knows his value on what he assumes to be his value and wants it to be reimbursed. Team Liquid are not a small organization anymore. They don't, if they ever were, they don't need to scrimp and save. They've got big money there. And he knows that. And he knows that he can be compensated for his efforts. After all, if the team... when you're the best or better player in a team, there's more pressure on you to carry said team. Like, for example, when we talked about this last time, is it fair that, I don't know, NIP pay Arlu and Get Right the same, assuming they do? Because most teams operate on some sort of communist, you all get the same salary, guys. There's no I in team. Yeah, but there fucking is, isn't there? Look at Barcelona, for example. You know what I mean? Messi's not on the same as like one of the reserve players who occasionally gets a game, now and then. That would just be patently absurd. So Hiko in Team Liquid would be under more pressure and would be under a greater level of expectation, would probably be one of the stronger performers, and therefore should be compensated to a greater degree. That's just how it works.
Also, I mean, if you look at real sports, you tend to get paid on what you've done. They don't pay you on how good you could be or how good the whole team was. Like you don't sign for the team and they go, right, well, in the future, we might all win the championship. So we're all going to evenly get this amount. You get paid on how good you were. That's how market value works. So if I'm Hiko joining Liquid, everyone who's a fan's like, how dare he ask for 2.5 times salary? No, other way around. How dare you suggest that players in Team Liquid have the same value as Hiko? So what I just said there, Hiko's been to the semis of a major. He's been in the round of 8 of at least 3 majors, including the semi one. He's won maps against some of the world's best teams, the world number 1 team at a whole bunch of occasions, etc. The fuck have Team Liquid players done? What has Nitro ever done in his career? NA stuff online and made like what? Like I think it was like top 4 at a fucking ESEA once. Oh, congrats. That's the best player on Team Liquid, by the way. The others don't even talk about him, mate. They've done fuck all. Adren is famous for like bombing out of majors, and that's it. That's all he's done. And then winning the ESEAs when Ibepar had those crazy runs in NA. That's it. Those other players are not in any position to ask more. So listen, by the way, those players are already on super sick money. Don't worry about them. They're getting way more than if you talk about pure market value, they should be worth. Now, if Hiko wants more, that's down to whether he can get it or not. I don't know where all this stuff about greed and stuff comes in. You guys, I don't know all the details. You guys know fucking none of the details. You people watching right now, you have no clue who makes what, how much their value is worth, and what is a reasonable amount to ask for. So why are you making judgments on who's greedy? Like, this isn't a fucking soap opera, guys. It's actually real life. I don't know if you're aware of that.
Well, I mean, there's the point in a nutshell right there. Like, so how many players do we think, just in terms of where the market level is, are actually being overpaid? We've talked about this. Like, I think one of the issues is that people were so desperate to get into CSGO when it became the big thing, the growth esport, that actually the few teams that were vaguely competitive, that were left hanging on the vine, they got snapped up by organizations who threw money at them. So actually, they're getting overpaid in a way, like in terms of market value, in terms of what they would be worth. So they're getting paid, we know that the best team in the world is very rarely the best paid. That often doesn't correlate in esports.
Listen, Richard, I don't know the specific numbers, okay, but just based on the things I do know, okay, if I had to guess, I would say that teams like Cloud9, Kinguin, let me think of some other ones.
Yeah.
TSM, I'll try and think of a fourth one. TSM, Cloud9, Kinguin. Is there another one that would be that high? Maybe Liquid. I will bet that these 4 teams. So, okay, out of those 4, okay, we know TSM are amazing. They've proven to be worth the money, okay. But that's not why they got that much money. They got that much money while they weren't that amazing. They hadn't won any lands. So they would have been another team that had the value initially was inflated. Kinguin recently have shown us form, but at the beginning they were total trash and they were getting this much. Now, Cloud9, again, they got the money before they became the gods. So they were just an okay, like 9th level team. And then what was the 4th one I said? Kinguin, Cloud9, Liquid. And Liquid are totally terrible and never done anything. These 4 teams, remember the initial point at which they all got this money, everyone, all make more. I will bet a lot of money that they all make way more money than Na'Vi and Virtus.pro. I'll bet you any money. And yet, think of how good those teams are. Okay, of the teams we've picked there, you could make a case that TSM's better than those teams. You could make a case that Cloud9's in the realms with those teams. But remember, they didn't make the money once they were in that position. They made the money before. So they make more than teams who win events and who are consistently some of the world's best teams. And teams like Kinguin and Liquid probably make more salary, I'm willing to bet. What do you think? How close do you think I am, Rich?
Yeah, it's possible. I mean, with Virtus.pro, I'm never too sure because, look, there was opportunities for the Polish players to go to other organizations in the not too distant past, and they turned it down. They wanted to stay with Virtus.pro. They remain loyal to Virtus.pro, and one of the reasons for that is, like, you know, other than just respect for the organization or whatever, was, look, they pay us a fantastic salary. I remember when TSM entered the fray, and the deal that had been done for TSM at the time made them the highest paid team, supposedly, according to several sources. Now, this included as well retaining 100% of prize money. You know, like, basically the way TSM works, they're not looking to cream any money back from the players. They just let them keep it. There's other organizations that do that. They're not unique. I think there's a misconception with people out there in cyberspace where they think, oh, you've got to take some prize money that pays for sending. Nah, your sponsors do that. So taking a cut of the prize money is about making, you know, your business run efficiently. It's about creating a revenue stream. Do you want that money back? You know, most organizations will take a cut, but some don't. And it's different from team to team within organizations as well, because the expenses and runnings and salaries and everything else are all different. So it's completely at the behest of the organization. Anyway, so when I reported about TSM being the highest paid team, there was a clamor of people, like, literally climbing over themselves, coming out and going, that's bullshit. They ain't paid more than us. NIP did it. I think Virtus.pro were one of those teams. Everybody was, like, trying to come out and say, hey, look, we're the high, like it's the badge of honor. And the reality is, yeah, it's great that you look after your players. But again, let's not forget, there's a counter argument to everything I'm saying, which is you can sometimes overpay. And overpayment hurts the market just as much as underpayment. And I think there's been clear examples where people have thrown money at players that aren't worth it. And I think perhaps there's some examples in what you're listing off there. I don't know if Virtus.pro are, but Na'Vi, I can't imagine Na'Vi are on a salary akin to Cloud9 or something like that. I can't imagine it. Because
and we're not even talking, by the way, like $200 less. We're talking like they might be on half as much. And they're a fantastic team. That's like I'm not giving people numbers, but ballpark. This is reasonable, by the way, guys. Just by the way, the order in which the deals have been done, the region in which they were done in, the sort of expectations of the player. Because you have to realize a player from Ukraine doesn't understand the sort of value he could have compared to the guy from America who expects more and maybe delusionally thinks he's worth more, etc. This is just the way the scene works. So the point I'm making here is that you guys who are fans, I get it that from the outside when you don't have information, it's easy to make these judgments like this guy's greedy, etc. But that's because you don't understand the perspective, okay, basically of the players in this scenario. Like if you were a guy who knows that some of these players are getting paid that much, you'd have different expectations. It's not just based on how good you are, even. It's not a meritocracy in any sense.
Yeah, no, it's not. And this is what I mean. So just sort of rewinding and coming back to the point, you know, look, there has to be, you know, a fucking a sort of baseline, like what your average CSGO player is worth right now. And I think this amount doesn't exist. I don't think anybody has discovered this amount, like, because a CSGO player from 2012 who was the best in the world to an organization still presented less value than an average player in 2015, and that's because of the growth of the game. You know, it's having an average team in 2015 probably yields more return than having a top 4 team in 2012. Now, obviously, if you have a top 4 team in 2012 and there's still a top 4 team in 2015, that's worth more than anything. That's worth than just picking up a top 4 team for your organization, because you've got brand strength and all of those endorsement deals that come with it, and the fan base will have grown organically, so that'd be great. But there's few teams that did that. Not a lot of teams was really quick to support to support CSGO teams, and some of the bigger organizations sort of shunned the game and wanted to wait and see what happened, and they're the ones that come into the market late and overpay people. They actually create a non-existent problem, and this is the issue. What you're talking about here is that it's not that Hiko asking for 2.5 times other Team Liquid players is egregious or an overreach, because he's probably 2.5 times the player of anyone else on Team Liquid. The problem is they're already getting paid so much that when he comes in and asks for that amount, it seems that he's asking for a ridiculous amount of money. But they've set the economy.
What's funny, though, is if we tied the 2 points together, so a point you made previously about paying people separate amounts based on how much, like real sports, you know, you pay the star player more, you pay the guy who's the veteran, who's there for like glue guy, but he's not the most skilled, he gets paid less to a degree, you know. If you combine these 2 points together, you realize why it's so egregious, some of the overpaying in this sense. Because it's not just, here's the thing, okay, it's one thing if the best player in Liquid gets a comparable amount to someone in Na'Vi. When I say Na'Vi, the reason why I make that difference there, Na'Vi Liquid, is because we know Na'Vi have placed like top 4 in the last 5 tournaments, made the finals of a bunch of 1 tournaments. Liquid have never placed top 4 in a big tournament, etc. Okay, so the difference is they're not even in the same. I'm not just saying that Liquid players make it. I'm saying Adren makes more salary than Guardian. Think about that in a sporting term. That's like the best guy who's scoring 30 goals in the league in football is making as much as someone who plays for the 10th best team in the same league and who's the worst player on it and is just a defensive player who's really old and can't even run anymore. That would be absolute insanity in real sporting terms. But that's what's happening right now in CSGO.
Yeah. Now, here's where it gets interesting. And I briefly mentioned this last night on Trash Talk. I'm happy to talk about it a bit more in detail here, although I can't really go into too much detail. But obviously, we did our video, me, you, Sir Scoots. Really surprised how well received it was, actually. So good on the CS community for that. And one of the things we did talk about was player unions. And I said, you know, I've been working on this open letter and wanting to get in touch with players. Now, so far, I think what we're going to do is we're going to wait until after the major before we even try and do anything. Because, you know, I don't want to distract anyone's focus from a big event. So in the next few weeks, maybe we can all sit down and get the ball rolling. But I got talking to one of the UK's leading sports agents. He represents Premier League footballers. And again, I can't say who, but because that people could probably identify which agent I'm talking about. But the reality is that he's looked at eSports and he sees a potential opportunity there, obviously for himself, but equally when we had talks and I was saying to him, like, players don't have any form of individual representation. He couldn't believe it. He couldn't believe it. He was going, no, but I've heard there's esports agencies. And I'm like, yeah, an esport. First of all, you got things like GGA, which are owned by Twitch, right? So do you think any of those players are going to get offered sweet YouTube deals when that streaming platform's looking to throw money at top players? Of course they're not. So that isn't even really an agency. Then you've got the agency I'm with, and they've signed teams, but not individual players. You know? So there isn't an agency out there that's picking up individual players yet. He was like really surprised. So we're going to have some more meetings, probably after DreamHack London, to you know, maybe look at coming into the scene and actually getting players representation. Now, just imagine how this becomes a game changer. Because if you've got an agent for you specifically as a player, there's no more having to handle shit for yourself and go to the fucking manager of an organization or the owner of an organization, cap in hand, and say, "Oh, can I have more money than everyone else on my team?" You're not going to feel like a fucking Judas, you know? Like, you've actually got somebody to handle that for you. They know what your value is, and it's in their interests to fight for the best value for you. Equally, why is it players have to have whatever endorsement deal that the team has? Why can't you have individual endorsement deals? It's really fucking frowned upon in esports, and I don't get it. You know, I'm not talking about, okay, the team is sponsored by Logitech, you use Razer, right? Because that is contradictory. But I'm talking about, you know, the team is sponsored by Logitech, and they don't have an energy drink sponsor, and say Monster Energy want to sponsor one player, let's say Freakazoid. Let's say they want to do a whole advertising campaign. Freakazoid drinks a can of Monster. You know, he starts out like some weedy, horrible little character, and he drinks a can of Monster, and boom, there he is. Biceps, muscles. I don't know why they do that, because it's an energy drink, but whatever, right? It's not creatine in a can. But if they wanted to do that right now, they would have to go to the team and say, we want to sponsor the team, and can we use Freakazoid for an advert? Why can't they just go straight to Freakazoid? Agents will make that happen, and that's going to give players more value, like more, you know, the Freakazoid brand is stronger than, you know, I don't know, other players on Cloud9, for example. You know, that it's like Pasha Biceps in you know, fucking Virtus Pro. It might not make any sense. He might not be the best player, but his brand is stronger, and therefore that needs to be reflected in the returns of the money he gets. Now, an agent is going to open this. He's going to fucking change the game. Players won't get fucked again, money-wise. They'll always get their value if they sign to an agent. So that's what I want to do. Look, people have this idea that agents are super sleazy, and they're all just money-driven, and they look to fuck everyone over. There may be some truth in that, but the point is the agent comes in, and it's his job to represent his client and get them the money that they deserve. That's not a bad thing for where esports is right now, because the players are reliant on the managers to do that. Seems ridiculous to me.
Hello?
Oh, hi, I'm still here. Did we catch up? Yeah.
Is it all fixed?
Yeah, I think so. So, yeah, basically...
Can I get a drink really quickly? I'm so thirsty.
Yeah, go on then.
It'll take me 1 minute.
Right, well, we'll restart the stream. All Thorin could think about was fucking drinks. I'm guessing the sound lagged out. Yeah, we're getting sound lags, by the way. Yeah.
All right. Did you like that?
Yeah, I did, mate. I did like that. You just didn't say anything because all you were thinking about was a fucking oasis in a desert.
I know. I was so thirsty.
God, Richard,
because you promised me that break, so in my mind I was like, "Oh, it's a drink coming soon."
Please stop making this point so I can get a drink, please. Right, there you go. You got your drink now. So yeah. Anyway, agents are the game changer I think the industry needs. What do you think, Thirsty Thorin?
Well, yeah, I think that would be really good for the scene, actually. Like, listen, it is possible that at some point we might hit like a point where by agents being too good, the salaries do get inflated, you know, etc., and things have to go back a stage. But I actually don't. That's not something I have to be concerned about as a journalist. Like that's the scene. Like, there's an equilibrium that will be reached at that point in time. And people won't just keep paying more than they can afford too long, etc. The problem is at the moment, like I'm kind of describing here, the big thing is there's money in the scene. There is definitely the money out there for all these star players. It's just they're on the wrong team, or their team's in the wrong region, or their team signed their deal 3 months before they could have signed it, etc. Like, here's the point I'll make, okay, to everyone, to understand how fucked things are at the moment without a proper system of everyone knowing their value. Essentially, if I was a team like Na'Vi, like Virtus Pro, like these levels of teams, I would actually have told these teams, if I could go back in time to like October of 2014, I'd tell them all, like, guys, don't sign any contracts in the next 7 months. And they'd be like, what are you talking about? Like, someone just offered me 1-2 months from now, that's really sick. I'd go, no, listen, turn down every big org, turn down TSM, turn down Envious, turn down everyone, and I'm just wait. And they'd be like, what are you talking about? Like, I'm blowing all these deals. These are the best deals in the world I'm getting offered. And at the very end, whenever it was, I can't remember, what was it, like May or something, May, June, I'd say, right, now this deal here, Kinguin, sign with this deal. And they'd be like, what are you talking about? I'd be like, you're now the highest paid Counterstrike players in the whole world. They'd be like, how did you do that? It doesn't make any sense. I missed all these big orgs that were worth it. I was getting offered deal after deal after deal. And I'd be like, yeah, exactly. You didn't even, it's not even about your results. You don't have, like, the best team in the world doesn't get paid the most. Best team in the world probably doesn't even get paid top 3 in the world at the moment. That's how silly this situation is. So that at the moment, the problem is there's no rhyme or reason to it, really. So I also think, by the way, the real game changer to me is not just to have the agents, but they've got to get the top players. Like, if Get Right at the end of his NIP contract, if he signs with an agent, if Olofmeister signs with an agent, if Guardian signs with an agent, that's when it's game over for anyone trying to fuck players over, because these guys, they have the skills and the marketability, and they have everything, basically, So then if they have the agent, they're going to get the maximum, and that's going to put everyone else in line, hopefully.
Yeah, I agree. Right, we are going to quickly restart the stream because I think we're getting slight lag spikes coming through again. So we're just going to do that. So we'll be back in 2 minutes. Obviously, if you're watching the VOD, we'll be back instantaneously. Shazam. Right, hi everyone, we're back. So yeah, we went on a little cul-de-sac there, predicated on Hiko. Let's bring it right back to the point, and that is if Hiko joins Team Liquid, how much does it improve Team Liquid, Thorin?
See, on one hand, it doesn't change that much about the identity of the team. Like, as I referenced before, when it was an option as whether he could join them, I didn't think it was that big a deal if he did or didn't, because he doesn't have Skadoodle with him anymore. That was one of the key aspects of making that team, was to play with Skadoodle. So without Skadoodle, if he just joins the team straight up, I don't think it makes that much difference, to be honest. Like, if they keep all these pieces and they don't do some drastic changes, I think they might be slightly better, because I do think he's a clutch player. He's got a lot better experience on LAN, etc. But I don't really think that he's someone who's necessarily going to, I don't think they're suddenly going to start winning best of threes over European teams, for example. So not that big an improvement, I don't think.
Yeah, just get your camera on for us. And I agree with you. I think the camera's jumped up for some reason. I agree with you. I think he'll be, I think it'll give them an extra edge. It'll make them a little bit more competitive. I mean, it's kind of interesting. Like, if you think currently on form, like CLG's the number 2 in America, it just shows sort of how much of a drop-off there is. Like, after Cloud9, it just, bump. It's just unbelievable. Yeah. So there is an opportunity there, I think, for Team Liquid to maybe leapfrog CLG. I don't think that would be beyond the realms of possibility, but the idea of, like, them dethroning Cloud9 as the number 1 is just it's absurd, even with or without Hiko.
Like, to me, whether they can do that isn't predicated just on Hiko. He can make them more solid and he can make them slightly better, but it's fixing the other issues that we've referenced many times on this show. Like Adren, there's some massive issue going on with him, probably even in-game leading. People like Nitro, etc., don't seem to be in the right role for how good they are as players. So listen, what's good about that is a lot of these issues are fixable. You don't even necessarily have to get other players. So maybe with their new coach, etc., maybe they can tweak these things. But my point there is, it's not like if Hiko joins, and in 6 months from now they are at the level of Cloud9, that won't be just because Hiko joined, if that makes sense. Yeah,
absolutely. So let's move on to another piece of North American news. There'll be a little bit less to talk about here. Looks like Mythic are about to implode. So for those that haven't sort of followed what the Mythic adventure, they were Luminosity. They get removed by Luminosity, replaced by the Brazilians from Keyed Stars. They become Mythic. They bring Devil Walk in, which people were like, oh, it's great to see Devil Walk back. Jonathan hasn't really performed at all since coming back. I mean, sure, he is a support player, so don't look at the frags too much. But just in general, he's been poor. He's looked like a player who's been out of the game for a while. Now it turns out that PTR, or Peter, is out of the team. He's moved into free agency. Now, I like Peter, actually, as a player. I think he's decent. I think back when he was in CLG, he kind of got scapegoated a little bit. I don't necessarily think he was the root of all of the problems that team was having at that time, even though, sure, without him, they have gone on to bigger and better things. But now he's a free agent. So I was wondering, what are your thoughts about this? Because I don't see Mythic having a future now. I literally can't see this team surviving. It seems like a costly experiment that has ultimately failed. And equally as well, why do we think he is no longer in the team? Do you have any ideas about that?
I mean, I actually think what you said at the beginning probably sounds more reasonable. The idea that if things fell apart with Luminosity, that was one of the main reasons for the team existing, basically. They had like a pretty good sponsor situation. I mean, apparently at some point they maybe even had a house or something. They could afford to fly Devil Walk, obviously. They obviously had some good backing, despite not being a very good team. And at one point online, they were a decent team, actually. They were doing all right in ESL, ESEA, but they just never showed anything on LAN. All those LANs, they were terrible. So actually, this team probably should die. Like, I won't weep any tears when this team is gone, because let's face it, if any of the players in it are good, and some of them have some positives going for them, like either in the past they were good or they're decent now, they probably should join other teams. This is not the right team for them. In terms of Peter, the thing is, I mean, he hasn't had the greatest performances either. He basically, unfortunately, because he kind of burst onto the scene with that big upset over LDLC way back at the beginning of the year, he's never really lived up to that level. Again, he's had the occasional flash, but he's never been he's not that level of player. So he's decent. The problem for him is that in distilling a lot of the talent through the NA scene, so now we've got to the point where it's set with like Cloud9 number 1, CLG number 2, Liquid probably 3rd. It's got to the point now where there's not that many teams left to join that are going to be good right now. Now it's like you're getting all the better teams in theory into the top teams, and then who's left, So the problem for him is, who does he join? Does he join up with the people who were like ex-Neolum? Does he join up with people who were in Elevate? I mean, that whole group, they're all around a similar level. No one's really got the right mix yet to be really good. There's the Tempo Storm people. I think at the moment what will probably happen is all those players will go into sort of like an open pool for a little while, and hopefully like 1 or 2 good teams will form out of them, because there are good players out there. It's just not a good mix of them at the moment.
Yeah, I don't really know where I don't know where they would go, where he would go. The whole thing is a bit of a mess. And I remember we said on this show that, like, on paper, they looked like they could be a team that could literally be one of the, at the top end of NA. Again, certainly not dethroning Cloud9 by any stretch of the imagination, but they could have been 2nd, 3rd. And for them to be this low and so persistently bad at LAN, it's just like, guys, it's obviously wasn't meant to be. It just wasn't meant to be. It's a shame, because on paper it looked like a good idea. But, with the absence of, it was Nafly, wasn't it, I think, that left this team.
He's the one who was removed.
Yeah, so, I mean, that to me seems a startlingly bad decision, because I thought, when we used to incorporate numbers more into by the numbers, whenever we were talking about his performances, the stats he was putting up were hugely impressive. He was like the team's big fragger, And then
also because the funny thing was, the knock on him for his whole career has been the idea that at LANs he hasn't done that well, and obviously the rest of them didn't do very well. So, I mean, I don't know who they were pointing fingers at in that sense.
Exactly right, mate. So anyway, we wish Peter all the best, and we hope he finds a home soon. Copenhagen Wolves unveil a new team. So Copenhagen Wolves are back, and this time they're not Danish. So you've got former Norwegian players that I think were in, was it London Conspiracy? Robinho.
And LGB, I think it's the same.
And LGB, yeah.
Wasn't it?
Yeah, that's right. Jakem Zeves. And they add to that the 2 Swedish property players, Zender, and of course a player who I think's fucking phenomenally talented, Twist. Now, that looks like it's a bit of a second tier pickup in a lot of ways, that like Copenhagen Wolves are like, look, we've just got to get a CSGO team. But actually, that could be surprisingly good in that tier 2 area, in like, I don't think they're a top tier team by any stretch of the imagination, even if I do rate Twist really highly as a player. And of course, less people forget, Twist was potentially in the frame for NIP, I think it was, when Arlu got picked up, and I think Twist turned him down. So that's, the balls on that guy. So I like him even more. I'm sure you love him. So what do you think of this team? I mean, I think they're a bit of an unknown quantity for obvious reasons, but I got a good feeling. I think these guys could be deceptively competitive.
I actually think this isn't a bad lineup. Like, usually a lot of these lineups where it's like the 4th best team from Sweden or like the best Norwegian team, I usually kind of roll my eyes a bit, because I'm like, nothing's ever going to happen there, The problem that you had if you were the guys from Norway is that since you lost Rain, that's pretty much a wrap for your team. Like, he was by far the best player in your country. He was the one guy where it's like, if we can just get the right players to go around Rain, then we have a chance. So as soon as he was gone, it was over for Norway. So this is the right move, to get a couple of Swedish players. And obviously within Sweden, they've got so many good teams now that some of those players can't just only go for Swedish players. All the talent's gone in theory. So I think this isn't a bad mix-up. I like Twist, as we've mentioned. He has kind of been a tease for his whole career, because he's been good, but like he's never really blown the doors off in the last sort of year and a half or so, because it's been so long since he's been on a good team, since back when he was on LGB, the Swedish one. Jakem had a while where everyone was hyping him like he's going to be like an ex-good player, but again, you don't kind of accomplish much if you're an all-Norwegian team. So I don't think this is a bad try. It's not a bad little gamble to see how they do. I think it's still not that great a chance to make it to the top 10, but maybe if they get the right chemistry, we'll see.
Right, let's skip on because I want to leave a good hour for our Cologne chat. I'll combine the next two news posts, Duncan. You'll like this. It's the fucking Revenge of the Scrubs, the 80s horror movie. So both Hunden has got a new lineup and Hitton he's back, baby. He's got over his bout of bad toe or whatever he had. And he's back with a new team. So let's take a look at Hunden's first, because this is really interesting. Hunden, who obviously got released from SK Gaming, and I don't think there's any love lost there, but he got released, following some poor performances. And, there was a lot of talk about maybe a bit of difference in ideologies, a bit of infighting going on as well. And, of course, he was the in-game leader, lest we forget. Now he's going to be playing in a team with, former Reason gaming players, but players that aren't hugely known or hugely established. So he's going to be in a team with Config, Mave, Yugi, and Taboo. I got to be honest, I'd love Hunden to succeed. I think Nikolai's the top boy. Love him a bit. Known him many years, but I don't see it happening with this team. So I thought I'd get the Thorin review. You don't even need to use words. You can use thumbs if you want.
Just looks like a waste of time. I think the amount of time we've just spent talking about it's the amount of time we should dedicate to it for the rest of eternity.
All right. So we'll have a look at Quitten's team. He's back. And of course, former Kinguin player. I always think he was the player that was just destined to be removed. I like him, actually. I think, again, there's a perception that I don't like him. What's there not to like? The guy looks like Phil Mitchell, right? Which I want to see more players that look like EastEnders characters, ultimately. He's a top guy, by all accounts. And he was always under more pressure than anyone else in that Kinguin team because he was like the obvious non-fan favorite. So to be under that pressure and, in that environment, it's not fun. It's not fair. It's a lot of stress. And, he's now got an opportunity to set the record straight. Now, he's going to be in a team with Rock, Maxi, Dominate, and Lecro, which are kind of like former Orbit players, I think. Rock and Maxi. I think Dominate and Lecro haven't really ever played in a top-tier team before, but I could be wrong about that. So this is almost like a sort of second-tier and arguably third-tier Swedish team that's kind of coming together with aspirations of doing something big. They're currently called TSK. What do you think about these group of players?
I mean, this one's better than the Hunden one, obviously, because this one actually has players we know and have done something. I remember Rock was in the team with Hitton, actually, which was the SK lineup, which had Makalalian that actually beat Fnatic and basically disbanded the old Fnatic a year ago at DreamHack Summer. They were the ones that put them out in the group stage, and then Fnatic then actually disbanded some of the team and got all of them and Crims. So he's been around the scene. He's been to LANs. I think this lineup's, and Maxi also been around similar sort of level teams. I think this lineup has, I don't think they're going to do well. There's no one in the team stands out. So it's not like, I don't put it this way, the three teams we've just analysed, the one that was the first one, which was like Twist and Jacob, etc., that one should be by far the best of these three. This one should be the second best one. This one at least might do something slightly notable in online competitions. And then the Hunden one should pretty much do nothing. So I think that's like a reasonable expectation of them.
Yeah. All right. Okay, so that's the news pretty much, unless you've heard anything on the grapevine you'd like to bring up. I mean, obviously that means you would have to do some form of preparation for this show, Duncan, which we know is not in your contract. So anything I've missed that leaps out before we move on to Cologne?
Not really.
Yeah? All right, good. I'm glad. So we'll get on to the predictions. Now, I've already committed to my predictions on another show, so this segment's not really about me, Duncan. It's mainly about you, because, you're the leading analyst. I thought it was quite funny, actually. There's there's a lot of fucking pushback about, again, I don't know where it's come from. I guess it's because, obviously, we're not going to be at ESL. There's a lot of pushback about, all they do is make meaningless predictions. And what's first of all, I don't really know how you're supposed to express knowledge about something if you can't, put it into something and say, well, because of this, I think this will happen. Seems to be the only way that knowledge is worthwhile, as if it's a bit of foresight and forethought, and you can, maybe predict an outcome based on it, or say, I believe this will happen for the following reasons, and be proven right. So prediction's kind of like a good way to show you actually know what you're talking about. Otherwise, you are just saying, well, this happened in the past, and then there's no point in anything else. Well,
here's a funny thing, Richard. People wouldn't know this, but because I've worked with so many of the desk hosts in CSGO, I was one of the people that made it almost a rule that we have to do predictions for desks. Because when I first started doing them in CSGO, there was a trend where some desk hosts, if it was their thing, would be like, I want to get a number from you, like what round is it going to be or what map, But some of them actually never used to ask. And I noticed, like, here's another factor when we were doing the whole Raheem thing, when I was trying to explain to people what it's like, the camaraderie of working events. I noticed that you'd get some brilliant pro players who definitely had great insight into who's a favorite in this matchup, but didn't want to come off on air like they're picking a team and then the fans come back on them. So they'd be so vague. And some of them still do it to this day. Like, I love some of these guys who are ex-pros or still pros, but they go out early in tournaments, but they still do that shit where it's like, oh, Copenhagen Wolves against Fnatic here. Listen, Fnatic are a big favourite, but if Copenhagen Wolves really get it together and the Dust 2's on point, it wouldn't surprise me if they win. It's like, I want to stop you right there, mate. If that wouldn't surprise you, what the fuck would at this point? What aliens landing in the middle of the thing, taking all off into a craft? Like, the point here is that sort of a guy is purposely not giving you his analysis, actually, because he's worried about what you think. So instead, to make it not a big deal that he gives you analysis, the desk host has to ask him for it, okay? Because then he's put on the spot. It's not like he offered it up, like, oh, and Fnac's going to wreck him, It's more like, oh, who do you think's going to win by what maps? So I used to tell the desk hosts, just ask us all. Just try and get us to put us all together. I'll always give you a number. I'll always get, even if it's not right, I'll always at least commit myself to something, and it just gives a better framework. So I think for analysts, it's actually important to do that, because a lot of the desks I find rubbish are the ones where everyone just does what I just said there, like, but look out for CLG. Maybe they could win this best of 3 over Na'Vi. Like, no, that's ridiculous, mate. That's not even you haven't even told me how they'd win. You just told me it might happen.
Yeah, but it's the thing as well. Like, people seem to prefer. Like, I don't get this. Like, I'll always respect somebody. Okay, so this might go over a lot of CS:GO fans' heads, but like, take Artosis in StarCraft. Now, nobody would say to you, Artosis doesn't know what he's talking about when it comes to StarCraft. He's like one of the leading commentators, one of the leading analysts, one of the great thinkers of the StarCraft 2 era, and of course now currently in Hearthstone. Where I don't think he's necessarily as highly respected. But when it comes to StarCraft, nobody could take anything away from Artosis. Yeah, actually, his predictions are notoriously bad. It's called the Artosis curse. That he thinks things through and applies logic, and sometimes logic doesn't apply. That's actually the beauty of sports in a lot of ways. That you can look at something, and unless it's like really obvious, like a Division 3 football team's playing the best team in the Premier League, 99 times out of 100 they're going to win, the better team, obviously, and it wouldn't be any great shake to say, well, yeah, Chelsea will beat Cambridge or whatever in the FA Cup. But of course, there's always that upset potential, and when you're doing like tournament predictions, only takes 1 or 2 upsets for your whole thought process to come unstitched. And then you've got a very limited amount of time to sort of recalibrate the information and come up with, more predictions, more analysis, more ideas. So it's not like easy by any means. Like, you can have safe picks. And the only thing I will say about you is, like, when you have a safe pick, at least it's based in logic. The safe pick might be Fnatic. Yeah, they're inarguably the world #1 team. So like, they're going to beat other teams. Like, probably is my mistake. One of the reasons why I get too much shit is I try and envision scenarios where the underdog could win, and then I'll apply that logically to what's happened in a veto or whatever, and be like, okay, well, this can happen. So sometimes I may take picks out on the curve a bit more, But I don't get it. Like, I was reading, like, obviously I do occasionally browse the HLTV forums just to remind me why. Like, no matter how bad my life gets, at least I'm not posting on that forum, like, it's actually, good. I'm not that guy. I'm not that guy on the HLTV forums. I'm not Domino PT making his 20th Fox thread of the day, like, I'm not him, right? And I'll never be him, and my life will never be that bad. So it's like, oh, that's awesome. But anyway, there was like some guy who like used to play CSS, and he used to play in like relatively decent teams way back in the day. And every thread he just seems to pop up, and it's like, yes, unless you have played, you cannot be an analyst. Predictions are worthless. Richard Lewis and Thorin used to own Cadred together, and they used to cheat in source mixes, and it's all this like insane fucking shit. Like, I mean, I didn't know. Me and you own a website together, Duncan. It's pretty good. Yeah, just like, I mean, the sad truth about that player is, and I know this from other people that used to play with him, like he did get massive drug psychosis from like smoking too much fucking super strong weed. But anyway. So I don't think I think it's fair to say he's not out of the woods, but basically I just don't get why. How else is an analyst supposed to demonstrate knowledge? I don't really get it. What are we supposed to do?
Also, you have to realize the reason why I don't get caught up in that stuff is those tend to be the people who, what they essentially explain to you is why they haven't even taken what you said on board. Like they've already decided, right, you haven't played, so then what you say doesn't matter. So to them, you're just throwing darts at a board. You know, if you get it right every now and then, it was a fluke because you can't have possibly known the reason why. But here's what's funny. You might have seen this a few weeks back. I actually was thinking about all the events I'd done. Like I thought, like I've done something mad, like 10 events this year or something. So I went back and looked up all the events I've done. And in CSGO, I've done 18 events on analysis desks. And I looked up all the results of the finals of these 18 events. And out of 18 events, I guessed the winner of the final 14 times. Now, here's what's brilliant about that, Rich. You'd think that's inarguable. You've done a really good job there. In general, you've understood the trends of who's going to win and why. No. Most people think that stat's worthless, Rich. What they do is they go, well, it was obvious, wasn't it? You know, you just pick the favorite every time. Now, what's genius about that is exactly the discussion we're having now. When you don't force yourself to literally write one name out of two down each time, in your own mind, you will always exaggerate how much you know about the game. As in, the person who's like I described before, the ex-pro, who doesn't say that Fnatic, let's make it a more reasonable one. Let's say Fnatic was playing against, let me think of a team who could be there. Okay, Cloud9. So, okay, Cloud9 and Fnatic. Cloud9 can win that matchup, obviously. It's not ridiculous, but Fnatic, in general, you would predict to win most of the time. Now, if you don't force yourself to pick a team out of the two, then the time that Cloud9 does beat them, you're going to go, well, I did say, you know, there was a chance, and that wouldn't have surprised me. So in your mind, you almost like count that as like a mark for you again, like, well, I was sort of on the right money there. What happens is when you force yourself to put their name down out of the two every single time, you will find, historically, you'll find these cases where it's like, oh man, I was way off point there. And it only seems ridiculous now. At the time, I really did think that team was going to win. So the point I'm making here is when everyone looks back now, they're going to look at all these teams that won. And obviously, the team that won in most cases was the best team in the tournament. They played the best. And I did pick a lot of favorites, obviously. But here's the thing. In most isolated cases there, it was not the consensus opinion that the favorite would win. Because remember, it's easy to look back now and go, well, of course, Fnatic won all those events. Because now we know Fnatic are the greatest team. But what is the storyline from every NIP fan for Fnatic from January of this year onwards? It goes like this, doesn't it, Rich? Oh, they've fallen off now. Plus, they only used to cheat before. Plus, Flusher was a cheater. Plus, they only got that boost and they're corrupt. And, you know, and so likewise, they'd have Fnatic every event. They'd be like, Navi's going to get him this time. No, this time it's going to be C9 will get him. No, this time VP's got the goods on him. Every time they would have been wrong, nearly. Meanwhile, I've correctly analysed. No, they still can get it for this event. The map pool's still strong here. Likewise, the other way around. Everyone watching now, like, well, it's easy to pick the winner. Really, NIP fans? Is it NIP fans to predict who will win the event? Who would you predict, NIP fans, to have won events in 2015? Would it be NIP, the team who won none of the big events? Therefore, you would have been wrong. Let's check it out 100% of the time. Your stats would be 0% right. Mine is somewhat fucking ludicrous, like 70+% right. Suck a dick.
You tell him. You tell him. Actually, speaking of NIP, right, I wasn't going to bring this up on the show, man, but we do get two different sets of viewers. So I'm going to mention it. I'm just going to drop it in here. So, you know, I've told you about this, that we hired a witch, a psychic, who can allegedly cast Mayan magic to fix any outcome for anything. And we hired a psychic called Blondie. We paid her $45 and she cast a Mayan spell that NIP are going to win ESL One Cologne. That's what we wanted to happen, because obviously I want you to shave your head and rib you for the rest of your life about how NIP did it. We also hired her to Well, you'll see. I'll get Sam to bring the spell up, actually, if that's possible to do that. Okay, it's on stream. So you can see that with the Mayan spell, for some reason it works the same as a genie in a lamp. Mayan magic works the same as Aladdin. You get 3 wishes. So the first wish was obviously for Freiburg, Get Right, Forest, Arlu, and Exist to win ESL One Cologne. The second wish was to make any opponent of Team Ninjas in Pyjamas not be able to play well, and therefore make it an easy win for NIP. And the third wish, and we knew you'd like this one, was that the NIP magic will be as strong as this Mayan spell. Now, as the guy who coined the term NIP magic, you've got to appreciate that. But this is where we really paid the money. Because I think everybody would agree that, Freiburg's been having a real tough time. So we made her astrally visit the mind of Adam Freiburg, right? And she says, I have made an astral visit and remotely entered the mind of Adam Freiburg and placed these thoughts of influence. It is 2012 again, and you are at DreamHack Valencia of that year. You are the best entry fragger in the world. You can do this, and nobody can out-aim you. You will win, you will succeed with ease, and you are the best. And she adds, I've also meditated to bring success to you, for your wishes to manifest, and for you to live the life of your dreams. She's going to cast this spell. This is value for money, dude. 3 times a day for 30 continuous days. So even after ESL One Cologne, NIP should be unbeatable in theory. Now, I know maybe you don't believe in magic, Thorin, but you do strike me as a man who, while rational, is open-minded. Are you worried about this?
The big problem I have here is, first of all, listen, call me a skeptic, Rich, but I would question how proficient this person, presumably from America or England, is in Mayan magic. Not least of all, since actually mutual friend of ours, Monte Cristo, actually underwent a Guatemalan Mayan initiation ritual that lasted over 1 year, where you have to cut yourself off from society and have no access to phones, and you don't even get to drink much water, and they make you hallucinate, and you have to do all these crazy tasks in the spirit realm, etc. I'm gonna guess she didn't do all that. She probably just looked some up online. So secondly, if the power of the Mayan people is so successful, what happened to that whole Mayan civilization they had that just died out completely and just got wrecked by essentially the most low-level technology compared to today of Spanish people or whatever it was? So I'm a bit skeptical. Secondly, I'd love to. Here's the thing, okay? When it said there, Rich, about how. What was the part it said? Oh, there's 2 parts that I really liked. One was where it said that Nip magic will be as powerful as this Mayan spell. I think that's where you fell down there, Rich. You didn't think it through. Because since this Mayan spell is shit and is not going to be at all effective, by making Nip magic equally as effective, you've actually built in a booby trap there. You didn't think it through, did you? You've actually made Nip magic ineffective now. So actually, I'm going to go the other way. When Nip gets shit on, Rich, it's actually your fault, because you inadvertently caused a kind of syncretism between shit Mayan spells that don't work at all and Nip magic. And then secondly, when you said that he would be as good as at DreamHack Valencia, maybe it's one of those careful what you wish for scenarios, because maybe his level will actually go to the level of someone actually playing in August of 2012, but it's now 2015, so he'll get shit on so hard, it'll be fucking insane. So I also like to imagine that she did visit him in the astral realm, and she came out and he was like, oh my God, who is this sort of, and he would describe it later yeah, I had this crazy experience, man. It was there was, I could sense a presence in the room, but it felt like it wasn't even a person there. It was a lack of a person, this vacuous sort of entity with no intelligence, it didn't even seem sentient, and it was saying these words to me that I understood, DreamHack Valencia and entry fragging, but it didn't even feel like a person almost. It felt like just this airhead almost, whatever kind of creature it was. It really freaked me out, actually, it really rattled me before that tournament, if I'm being honest, and I wasn't feeling the magic, if anything, So,
well, it's funny. I actually spoke to him the other day, and he said he had a visitation from an attractive blonde woman wearing witch clothes, and all it resulted in was a wet dream. So, a bit unfortunate for him, really.
I think I know that fangirl, though, actually. So, keep playing pipe. That's all I'm going to say.
That's how
he's a plumber. He's a plumber, guys. He's secretly a plumber as well. Yeah.
Mario. So Look, dude. I'm.
Let's face it, Rich. If anyone was sort of like the Ron Jeremy of CSGO, it'd have to be like Freiburg, right?
So, that image is horrible. Just the idea of him with a fucking foot long. God, awful. Anyway, let's just say I think that this could be very good for NIP. I've told NIP, actually. They are aware that we're doing it. Now, we didn't know if it was worth maybe going to the other extremes. We found somebody who'll do voodoo. And we were maybe going to cast some voodoo on Fnatic players, but we didn't know how fair that was. So, we've held off going that far.
I think it's better to go like doing positive magic for someone rather than actually, in the event that somehow magic doesn't work, actually trying to ruin people's lives just for the sake of the outcome of the tournament.
So anyway, we're gonna go to Cologne. We're gonna film sort of the documentary of the magic in action. Actually, what was quite funny is, I'll get Sam to bring this up. We actually had we told ESL about it. We told ESL that we were casting a spell, and hang on, I'll just get Sam to bring it up on stream. But if he can also link it to me, that'll be great. They actually gave us a statement, because what we said was, we were like, oh, so you've done all of this stuff to stop drugs testing. What about psychic powers? What about magic? What have you done about that? Yeah, because, I mean, to be honest, they have as big an impact on fucking esports as each other, really. Like, as we've established, I've yet to see any evidence of what is a performance-enhancing drug in esports. So they sent us a press release, which is... And this is actually genuine. They sent us this fucking press release. Which says, recently a self-proclaimed witch came forth to announce that she has cast a spell to enhance the capabilities of NIP. Both ESL and our long-term partner Valve Corporation have a strong history of anti-magic. Valve Corp have even gone so far as to dedicate an entire Dota hero's name and lore to be against magic. Seriously, have you considered how against magic Valve have to be to call a hero anti-mage? When you have a hero that is literally called anti-mage, you know that they are not playing around. The integrity of competition is of paramount importance to league operations at ESL, and that is why we have introduced new anti-magic policies to protect players, fans, and the general public against the dangers of this heresy. Prior to competition, all players will be tested for any form of mana supplements, and through our new partnership with the World Anti-Magic Agency, WAMA, we will equip all ESL referees with Black King bars, regarded as the highest form of anti-magic protection. While we regard most policies as an evolving process, our magic policy is simply non-negotiable. Fuck magic. And they actually did send that. So fair play to ESL for sending me.
Well, there's also, actually, Valve is like anti-magic. If you remember, there was a scene in Half-Life 2, the game, where there's like, on the like speakers, there's this thing that's like, let me remind all citizens of the dangers of magical thinking. Like, there actually was some shit like that in the story of Half-Life 2, which I know most people won't remember, because it was a cynical cash-in on the Half-Life genre, which never had the sequel, which is clearly what you were paying for. So
yeah. So there we go. So look, we're going to Cologne, me and Sam. We're going to film it. We're going to film the magic in action. And trust me, Thorin, if NIP win the major, you have no idea how good I'm going to feel. Like, sure, okay. I'm pretty confident like that the magic's going to work. And I'm pretty confident you're going to be sat here with bolder than me for the next By the Numbers. I can't wait.
I'm not worried.
You're not worried?
Pretty safe on this one, mate.
Yeah, so you think, well, we'll see. So with that said and done, let's move on to predictions. So, I mean, first of all, just a general thought about the sort of overall competitiveness of ESL One Cologne. I actually think this is a pretty great lineup for a major. There's like loads of storylines going on here. There's loads of potential upsets, and there's so much going on. You know, some teams are on the up, some teams are on the down, and it really creates, for me, I don't think it's cut and dry, this major. You know, it's kind of almost a little bit like, I don't know, actually, this could be the most open major we've had. I don't know if you agree with that.
In a sense, like, here's the thing. In one sense, it isn't, because the most open major, I think, was actually last year's ESL One Cologne, because that was the one where there really wasn't even a favourite. Like NIP was still ranked number one, but they'd had all those bad results. So that one was like just for the champion. Maybe that was more open. This one's more open in as much as every level of the tournament. Like the group stage is really open as to who gets out. Round of 8, who knows? Quarters, tons of teams can make the quarters and make the final, etc. It's open in terms of like the whole, every aspect of the tournament. ESL One Cologne, maybe just in terms of more teams could have won. But yeah, I think in terms of like every stage, there's a lot of parity.
I mean, it's going to be super interesting. I'll take sort of a group by group stage, and then I don't know how far you want to get into it. Like, do you want to do sort of each stage of the event?
Yeah, if you want.
Okay, cool. Well, in that case, I'll try and make it all brief. So let's start with Group A. Now, Group A is going to be NIP, TSM, Renegades, and CLG. The first game is going to be NIP versus CLG, and then it's going to be Renegades versus TSM. And this is all starting tomorrow. Obviously, the group stage begins Thursday. So let's talk about this. For me, I think there's two teams clearly. And how it works actually is the winner of the group just goes straight through to the quarterfinals, and then the remaining 3 teams get broken up into other groups. And then they're going to play a secondary group stage. And then, so that's how it works. So NIP versus CLG. Now, CLG obviously have proven that they do have upset potential, on individual maps. And of course, this is going to be best of one. So CLG versus NIP, is that anything NIP fans should be worried about? Should a certain sidekick right now be worried that her reputation is on the line?
CLG does have upset potential, and of the teams that you think of as still being anywhere approaching a top team, NIP's one of the ones obviously who could be upset because they've been in bad form recently. With that said, it's mainly the maps that concern me in terms of CLG here. Like, I don't think CLG is going to get on the maps they want. They want it on maps like Mirage, Dust 2. I think if NIP just play it smart in that sense, and they get like at least one of those maps out, like I'd assume they'll take Mirage out, then it's going to come down to like the random map selection. So there's a pretty good chance NIP wins that just on the maps, and then they're obviously a better team. So I would still think NIP will win this match. They should be a pretty good favorite just because of the matchup.
Yeah, and then obviously Renegades versus TSM. I'm guessing this is fairly
overwhelming win for TSM. Yeah, I can't think of a single map that Renegades can get it onto, because, for example, if you're Renegades, you should want it to be a map like a Dust 2 or something like that. But TSM are phenomenal on Dust 2. They're one of the absolute best in the world. So TSM is definitely going to win that. And TSM's got so many skilled players, they can afford stuff to happen. Like 1 or 2 of their players don't even play that well, and they'll still smash that game.
So then obviously that will create a winners match. And again, this is to go straight into the quarterfinals. So NIP versus TSM, theoretically, in Duncan's world. Now, I've got a good idea how you're going to go on this one, but let's talk about it. Is there any world in which you can see NIP beating TSM?
No, because one of the big problems for NIP, aside from the fact I think at the moment some of their players struggle, is that when you think of what map they could play, it's very difficult. One of the problems NIP's had for all of 2015 is not having one map on which they are close to the best in the world. The whole year, their map pool's been shifting. They've been changing the maps that they pick, the maps that they ban. They've never had one map that was their strongest. Now, when they were at their best earlier in the year, what they did was just be pretty good on all the maps. At the moment, they're not in good form and they don't have one map they're super good on. Meanwhile, TSM, in general's had a really strong map pool. So I can't see even like a map you can get it onto if you're NIP. So unless NIP really just absolutely blows the doors off, and possibly people from TSM play like shit, I don't think NIP's going to win this matchup. It is best of one, but I still think TSM will be getting out of this group in first place.
I mean, do you not think that this is a potential banana skin for TSM, in the sense that one of the things you can always say about NIP is, in terms of map pool depth, they're competitive on pretty much every map. I mean, they have got a good depth of understanding, if you like, and it doesn't matter what map slips through a veto, you would bank on NIP being competitive on it. By contrast, I think there are some maps that TSM could struggle on. So again, is that going to come into play at all?
Actually, I actually don't agree with that. I actually don't think there's a single map in the pool that TSM will be bad on. Because here's the thing, the only one they hadn't been playing was Train, and I think they played that against Na'Vi and just like wrecked them completely. So I literally think of all the 7 maps. They can play them all. That's what's sick. TSM and Fnatic are the only teams where they literally on every map have a chance to beat almost everyone. Doesn't mean they will, but they have a chance. Other teams, even great teams, certain maps you get them onto, they're not going to have a chance there. They have to win on the other ones and win on the third one, TSM really, it's crazy. Like, here's the problem. This prediction here isn't about saying NIP's super shit, etc. This is just saying they're unfortunate to be in the same group as TSM. If they'd been in a group with someone like Na'Vi, VP, now they've got a chance. Now there's maps you could get to. Now there's chance. Unfortunately, this is just a really bad draw for NIP. So for me, it has to be a really outside scenario, like TSM being terrible, or like NIP absolutely going ham for them to get out in first place here.
Okay, well, I mean, one thing I would say is, like, if somehow in a world where NIP could get them on cobblestone, I think that could be a good scenario for NIP, actually. I think the last 3 times TSM have played on cobblestone, I think they've lost. No. I think it's out of 4. Out of 4, they've lost 3, and they had a narrow overtime win over SK Gaming on cobblestone at IEM. So I mean, for me, that's a clear deficiency. And of course, they've still got mad anomalies in it, like the Gfinity where they just battered Fnatic on it. Meant to be.
Oh, no, that was Fragbite.
Yeah, Fragbite it was. Sorry, you're right. Yeah, where they just battered them. So they're capable on it, but I don't know. I think NIP aren't particularly bad on cobblestone. That could be something. But again, you're right. I mean, both of these teams, they've got so much talent anyway, and they do have deep map pools that you only need to veto 1 or 2 to make it favourable for TSM. So I will agree with you. Indeed, on my pick'em on Steam, which are you doing that, by the way?
I've never done any of that shit, mate. I don't even know how it works.
Well, it's dead easy. You pick them and you buy a sticker for the team you think is going to go through at each stage. So you end up supporting the organization that you're supporting by picking, in a way. Okay. So I mean, obviously that would mean you were putting some of your hard-earned money into TSM's pockets, which would be the final victory for the evil Reginaldo. So I can't really see you doing that. Yeah, fuck the scene. I get it. I went out and bought a bunch, actually. I bought a bunch of stickers. It was quite interesting. I was looking at all the different levels of player signature stickers. Because, like, for me, right, I wrote this down, right? This is how fucked up things are in CS, right? So I wrote down a bunch of the sticker values that, from the stickers I got, right? Now, there's a bunch of, like, these are all foil stickers as well, which are meant to be the most expensive. There was, like, a bunch of guys, like Rallen and Coldzera, like, 50p. You pay £3.35 to get the sticker, and, like, they sell on the market for 50p. But, like, okay, you look at someone like JW, £3.80 a signed foil JW is worth, so slightly above market value. Out of all of the stickers, oh, and by the way, guys, yeah, you Portuguese fanboys, you don't put your money where your mouth is, because Fox is only £1.38. So get fucked. Anyway.
Well, I mean, Rich, let's be reasonable. Maybe they do put their money where their mouth is, but they have to save up for a while to get to that, Mitch. Come on. Economics. Yeah.
Economics, right. Yeah. So JW was one of the higher ones. But then, like, there's just this massive jump up. Shrouds, the value of a Shroud signature is double a JW signature. And Guardian is half of JW. What's the world coming to? Huh?
Fanboys, mate. NA fanboys.
Yeah. I was bitterly disappointed about that. Anyway, it was just an excuse to get another dig in at Fox, really. So let's move on to Group B. Not that I have any problem with Fox. The thing is, Fox is in this horrible world.
Fox fans.
It's Fox fans, isn't it? Like, Fox is probably sat there going, "Oh God, why are these people my fucking fans? Please, please stop making threads about me every day."
But the problem is, Rich, the whole Fox scenario is like when I made those jokes about Cloud9 and NIP in the past. So let's just remember the position Fox is in. He's a guy who is a no-name in CSGO, except that he has a name from 1.6. He never accomplished anything in CSGO. Also didn't accomplish anything in 1.6, but at least he was a good player there. So has accomplished nothing in this game, yet is the highest paid player in the world, gets to play on a team with other good players, including stars like Scream, Makalele, has all these great things going for him, gets sent to all these events, plucked out of nowhere, put on a team where I don't even know if his English is really good, but he's on this like international team. But what's the one downside of his career? Not 100% of people think he should be allowed that job and express their opinion in a way which has no tangible effect on the world. Oh my God, I feel so bad for the guy. How does he put up with it, you know? Like Buddha, Jesus, Gandhi, Martin Luther King, Fox. Like why? Why does all the good guys, why are they the ones that always get killed and tormented in this world?
There is no justice. Shit, man, I knew I meant to talk to you about something, which is good because we're coming to Group B and Kinguin are in it. But did you see that statement from Makalele? Like, I actually thought, like, what a cool thing of him to sort of do and come out and say he's the best teammate. And everyone just focused on that one line. It's like when you say something, Duncan, and you know, there's all these good points, and then you throw in a little zinger at the end. And, yeah, bitch. One of your little witty singers. And everyone goes, he just called him a bitch. This is everything else he said in this entire paragraph is irrelevant now. So, like, what the point Makalele was obviously making is that Fox is a great teammate. There's no need to fuck with the chemistry. Everybody loves each other in Kinguin. They've got the right blend. It's all good. And then, of course, to use a ridiculous example, he said, if I asked him to drop a Glock, he would go from one end of the map to drop me a Glock, right? And everyone's like, ha. Fox is only in the team to drop Glocks. Like, which, of course, isn't what he was saying, and is he what he meant? I just wanted to get your thoughts about that Facebook statement.
I understand what Makalele means, okay, and he's just trying to tell people, like, you know, this guy helps the team and all the rest of it, etc. The drop a Glock one was a stupid example anyway, because why would you drop a Glock anyway? That one didn't even make any sense whatsoever. Like, drop a Deagle or something, you know, drop a P250. That doesn't even make sense. But also, that's also exactly why I don't have all that much sympathy for the scenario. Like, I don't want anyone to get flamed, so I'd rather he didn't get flamed. But with that said, say he does do all this stuff that people only know because they're in the team. Well, exactly. He does stuff that we can't tell. Only you guys know if he's doing it. Therefore, how are we supposed to give him props? Also, if that's his best quality, that he helps the team out and will do anything for the team, then ultimately, isn't that the only justification for him ever being in? In fact, that's how I'd expect it to be. Put it this way, Rich. Yeah. If you had a woman living with you who had no qualifications, she had no skills in the world, she couldn't get a job, she was contributing nothing to the household, she can't fix anything around the house, she can't even like look after kids because you don't have kids, she better be fucking you. She better be paying you in kind to live in that house. That better be her rent, her fucking just giving you a human solace. That's all she can offer at that point. So all I'm saying is, well, obviously Fox is good at that. It's not like he sat around like, fuck you guys, I need this Glock. Like, obviously, that's all he can do at this point in time. What do you guys expect? Do you think he was mate? I mean, yeah.
Mate, exactly. I get my Glock dropped on the regular, mate. Put it that way. So, yeah, I'm in a good place for Glock dropping.
He may as well drop a Glock. He doesn't do fuck all with it anyway, so... He's a pacifist. I always suspected as much. Now he literally drops weapons.
So... Group B, envious.
Maybe I think I know, Rich. I think I know what he does. I think Fox's real task in Kinguin is to be the hype man. Like, he's like, when it's on around, he's like, yeah, get him, Makalele, go fuck this bitch up. Take this Glock. Take this motherfucking Glock, man. Get on that.
Here's my Glock, man. Go light this bitch up.
He just runs behind them the whole time. Like, look at you, boy. You're looking fine and fierce right now. You're getting in that ass, boy. And then when Scream like pops another one,
fuck him
you
up,
a fucking machine, damn, son. Damn, homie.
I like that though. I'd love to have that. In fact, like, if I could get a recording of Fox saying all those fucking things, while I was playing deathmatch or whatever, which obviously I do all the time because I'm a sick player. You know, I could just have it in there, like, yeah, get him,
be sick.
Woo! You ass cold motherfucker. I mean, that's the shit. Like, that's the shit right there. So anyway, Group B.
I'd pay for a Kinguin Fox soundboard. Put it that way.
Mate, the way Kinguin are going, it might come to that. They might have to market that to get the sponsorship side. Right, Group B, Envious, Luminosity, Kinguin, and Flipside. So first game is going to be Envious versus Flipside. I'm guessing. Do we need to say anything about that one? Like, the way Envious played at IEM, which of course they won, and they beat TSM 3 maps in a row to do it. Flipside should be a cakewalk for them.
Oh, forget the envious side of it. Flipside don't have simple, so it's over.
Yeah, but hang on.
Who the fuck is Flipside?
Yeah, hang on, Duncan. Markelov right, who I know you know as a big 1.6 fan, same here. He said the team's is better off without Simple. It's a much better environment now.
Oh yeah, I'm sure the environment's great, but in game they're going to get their anuses ripped to shreds.
So you don't.
No, it's over.
It's over. Their anuses.
This team's not getting to the. This is one of the teams with the least chance to get to the play. It's not happening. In fact, I'll tell you right now, it's over. It's not happening.
It's over. So
Envious is winning that one definitely.
Okay, there's no world they can upset Envious in. None.
No, and in fact, this is a tournament where they're even more fucked over by the redraw system, because the redraw system means odds are you might have to then beat like for Navi later on to get out of the group. Not even that you have to beat Kinguin or Luminosity. It's actually worse for them that there's a redraw. Makes it almost impossible for teams like that to get out.
Okay. So the next game in the group will be Kinguin versus Luminosity, the guys we've just been talking about. Drop your Glocks. Because Kinguin are coming. Now, here's where it gets interesting. I actually made this point on the other show I did, and I don't know if you agree with this. I actually think in this instance, Luminosity would rather be playing Envious, right? And I'll tell you as to why. You've got even though Envious are a new lineup, they played an event, they played a bunch of games out at IEM, and there's demos to go off. And not a long period of time between IEM and ESL One Cologne. So there's Luminosity. We know the Brazilians are very good at like anti-stratting teams. We saw them do that in the ESL, ESEA finals. We saw them do that online a bunch of times. They obviously have a very tactical approach to the game. Now the problem with Kinguin is, or rather them playing Kinguin, is that Kinguin always had this random wildcard style. They don't even have an in-game leader. They did have the coach was the guy that was calling all the strats. Well, when it became known he had a VAC ban, they removed him. Now they brought in Legia, or however you pronounce it, as a coach. So it's going to be something completely new again. And there haven't been a lot of games for Luminosity to go out and get demos to disseminate how Kinguin are going to play. Like, I'm not even sure Kinguin know how they're going to play, actually, at this major. You know, they're an intuitive team. As such, I can only see Kinguin, winning this quite overwhelmingly, I think.
I don't know that it's going to be that overwhelming, but I am picking Kinguin. Like, I think this one's one of the closest first round matchups, I think, because Luminosity have repeatedly shown to have like a decent tactical basis. Kinguin, though, have the fraggers, and recently it's been getting better and better. So I think they should win. It is best of one also. So I think Kinguin should get this one, unless it's some really weird map draw. But aside from that, because they haven't got that many lands on their belt with this lineup, so it's possible if you get onto some super bad random map draw, it could be terrible for you. But even just fragging wise, I think they should be able to win this match. So I'm picking them to win that.
Okay, and that will therefore set up a sort of winner's game between Envious and Kinguin. Now, I think this is going to be where the internet's going to like explode, because as we saw when we were doing DreamHack, when Kinguin were playing, and that was even when they had Hitton playing for them, they do have a massive fan base, actually. Like, I think the day they played, they had the highest viewing numbers on stream. That was where the stream peaked for day one. So this is a great sort of tantalizing prospect. Obviously, Scream going up against some of his former teammates. This is a huge scalp to have the potential to take early on. And we know Kinguin don't shy away from playing big teams. But right now, given that, as I've said multiple times, when a French team comes together after a French Revolution, a French reshuffle, the team that gets the best of that is always the best in the world, usually for about 3 months. That's what's happened historically in Counterstrike Source, and that happened time and time again for many years. Now, obviously, CSGO is a very different landscape, but I think Envious are going to be unplayable. That's one of the reasons why I think they are an outside pick for this, and I think can win the whole event from nowhere. So I think this is a tough game for Kinguin, unbelievably tough. Do you think Kinguin can sort of upset what I'm talking about? Is there anything that you think we should be aware of that sort of disproves what I'm talking about?
No, I think there's no reasonable basis for Kinguin to win this match, aside from the fact it's the best of one. I think Envious really should just win this one. They've got way too much talent. At the moment, the form looked super sick at IEM. So, yeah, I think this is a solid win for Envious here.
Yeah, okay, good. So we move on to Group C. And in Group C, we've got... Now, this group, I was sort of having a look at it. Group C and Group D are ridiculous, actually. So let's talk about Group C. Fnatic, Na'Vi, Titan, and eBettle. So first game is Fnatic versus eBettle. For me, I think it's a toss-up between eBettle and Immunity for which one's the weakest here. It probably is Immunity, maybe, I don't know. Immunity have had obviously a bit more big tournament experience. They've come over a few times. This is eBettle's sort of first outing at something of this size. But I think Fnatic, even with all of the alleged problems that are going on internally, I think they'll just beast eBettle. I mean, that's just an easy pick, right?
Yeah, that's one of the easiest ones to pick. There's no reason to think eBettle will be good. Remember, the only thing eBettle did was beat Hellraisers and beat Titan to get into this tournament. And they did so by the narrowest margins you could, and neither of those teams are considered world beaters. So yeah. eBettle, literally, I don't even expect them to do anything at this tournament. I think they're one of the teams that's going to be a last place type team. So I'm expecting Fnatic to very easily win this. And again, it can go to any map because it's Fnatic.
Now, this is one of the most interesting games of day one. I had 3 picks. And this for me is right up there. So Titan versus Na'Vi. You've got Na'Vi, who we know on this upward trajectory. They're looking great right now. They're a hell of a team. They've got all the ingredients to be successful. And realistically, they should be one of the outside competitors for this major. They should be. But they're going up against Titan, a new look Titan, a Titan that struggled to be here. It was LGB they beat finally to get there, wasn't it? It was quite a big win. Was it 16-2?
Something like that, yeah.
Yeah, so we know they've got potential to dominate sort of tier 2 teams, but this is Na'Vi. Now, Titan, I think there's so much pressure on the Shocks and Smith's combination that come in to this lineup now. They've really got to be difference makers, Shocks especially. But I just don't see it. I just don't see how Titan can beat Na'Vi. What do you think?
No, I don't think it can happen. Because you look at the situation in terms of where they're going to be, and it's even hard to pick maps that they can get at favorable for Na'Vi. Because when you're talking about Na'Vi, the maps you probably want to play them on if you're Titan, historically, would be something like Cash. That's the map Na'Vi always bans, so you're not going to get that map. Then you're looking down to stuff like Inferno, maybe Dust 2. Now, Na'Vi's still good on Inferno. They don't play Dust 2 as much, but they would also probably be a favorite to win that. So Na'Vi historically have got the edge in this matchup. I think they have a much better team in terms of skill. They're just a better team in general. And if you're Titan, the one thing you used to have going for you was this tactical proficiency, okay? Even when Kenny S wasn't on fire, you could potentially win with tactics. Well, we've yet to see that that's the case for the new Titan, because it's a brand new constellation with totally different players. So I actually don't think there's a lot of basis to think Titan win this match. I think Na'Vi's going to win it, and they've got the map pool to do so, definitely.
I mean, how much of a beating is it going to be then? I mean, is this even going to be close?
I think it can be close. Like, one of the things I have always given Existence credit for is that it's like whatever tool set you give him, he'll find a way to make it work in some sense of efficiency. Now, listen, you could still debate whether it's the most efficient way he chose. Like, should he have chosen this approach over that approach? But he'll get it to work to a degree. So it's very unlikely Na'Vi's just going to 16-3 them or something. I assume it will be a competitive match. But I think overall, Na'Vi will out, and they will turn out to be the better team, and they'll win this game.
Okay. So let's do the final group. And then I've got to sort of recalibrate in my brain what our predictions will mean for the secondary groups. You'll have to help me with this, Duncan. You're the brains of this outfit, right? The human calculator. So the final group is Virtus Pro, MouseSports, Cloud9, and Immunity, which means Virtus Pro will take on Immunity first and foremost. Read a great interview with Taz on HLTV, always forthcoming with his views, and he said Virtus Pro really want to win this major. They've been really boot camping to previously unachievable levels. Like he said, it's like the old days where you wake up at 10 a.m., you start playing, you play till 5 a.m., you go to bed, you wake up again. It's almost like, you should have some rocky music in the background. It's like a montage of them in an old barn, just, constantly playing, sweat pouring off them. So surely they're not going to come unstuck against Immunity, who are, as I said, arguably the weakest team here.
No, this should be far and away a VP win. Like, especially VP in general are good at crushing that type of team, like just playing arrogantly, like they don't, total disdain. And as a result, that means they can get even more dominating wins. Someone like a Fnatic would just cruise to like a 16-6 win over an Immunity, whereas VP will play like a bully style where they might win 16-1 if everything goes well.
Yeah, I think that should be a B sting. I got them. I got them picked for the group actually, but we'll get into that in a second. Now this is the game, right? This is the game. I think Cloud9 versus MouseSports. Like I literally can't wait for that one. I think that's going to be absolutely huge. Obviously, Cloud9 have had this great run of form lately. They made all these finals, haven't won an event. But, they beat Fnatic. They had a 2-0 against Fnatic before getting blown out against TSM in Valencia. They've looked better each event. Now they've sort of had this little break where we haven't seen them quite as often. And now they're going up against MouseSports, who similarly have been going to lots of events, playing really well, having a bit of a renaissance. God B's got this team incredibly well drilled. Bit of a flop at the Ace of Predator Masters, but as we said when we analysed that tournament, that the Hellraiser story there is like some deranged fairy tale. It would probably never happen again. You could play a best of 7 between MouseSports and Hellraisers another 99 times, and MouseSports would win it 99 times. Especially in the condition Hellraisers came in, where they had to play a series to even get there. And they were the last team out of the building the previous night before. They had like next to no sleep. They were actually absolutely running on fumes. So, who wins this one? I think this is too hard to call.
See, the problem with this one is C9 is a much better team than MouseSports, but I actually think this is one of the rare matchups where a team that's lower has a better matchup. I actually think MouseSports is a slight edge on C9. We saw it at CEVO. MouseSports actually beat them 2-0, and they beat them on Cash and Dust 2, which are the two main maps of Cloud9. So it's not just the matchup of the teams, it's also the specific maps they're going to want to play on. And so when you're MouseSports, the way they beat them was on Cash, they just completely shut down all the terrorist side attacks of C9. So that's the thing that C9's most famed for, is their T sides. They couldn't get anything going. And then when they were on Dust 2, God B just absolutely read everywhere that they could attack, and they just ripped them apart on Dust 2. So I actually think there's a slight edge to MouseSports, even though I think Cloud9's a better team, even though I think Cloud9 has a better chance of going further in the tournament ultimately. But I think MouseSports is going to get this.
What I love about this matchup as well is it's almost like how similar the teams are. You've got a captain who are great tacticians, don't bring a lot to the scoreboard. Gares and God B. You've got like both teams have a real aim star player. They have Shroud going up against Nex. Absolutely brilliant. They've got two really insane high level AWPers, Skadoodle and Chris J, who has really come into his own of late. I don't think it's an exaggeration to say, while I still think Skadoodle's the better player, I think Chris J could really have a huge impact on this game. So you've got that. So then it starts becoming about almost like your secondary players in the team, like who's going to step up. And lately, Nothing's been stepping up quite a bit, and so's Dennis in MouseSports. So there's just so much going on. These teams are really similar in terms of how their roster's constructed. I just think this is going to be like a huge game. Now, I was going to go with a similar thought process to you. I think MouseSports will take this, which isn't to say I see Cloud9 going out embarrassingly early in the tournament, but I do see MouseSports being able to beat Cloud9, and I think they'll be reasonably confident in doing it. Home soil heroes as well. It does make a difference, gives you an extra couple of % when you're playing in front of a crowd that are all cheering for you and specifically for you, as we saw in Katowice with the Virtus Pro guys. So yeah, I think MouseSports will take that. So that then gives us, if our predictions are accurate, that then gives us MouseSports versus Virtus Pro. Now, I remember at the Gfinity we did, MouseSports put on an absolute masterclass and shut down Virtus Pro, like absolutely humbled them. Is there a chance they can do that again?
That's why this group is the craziest one to me. Group C looks crazy because it's ridiculous that Group C has my number 1 and number 2 teams in the world in the same fucking group. But Group D is crazier because there's 3 teams there who not only are all good, but actually it's the 3 who against each other match up the best. VP with Mouse, VP with C9, C9 with Mouse, C9 with VP. These are all great matchups. It's in the same fucking groups. And so the winners match in this group is almost certainly going to be an awesome fucking game. So if it is Mouse against VP, that's what's interesting. Again, VP is a better team than Mouse. VP has a chance to win this tournament, whereas I don't think Mouse does. Difference is, MouseSports actually match up well against VP as well. Like, that's another team that they can match well. Now, I think I actually will favour VP to edge this this one. I think this will also be a close one, but I think VP, especially because on certain maps, I think they have a wider map pool than Mouse overall. I think VP are just gamers as well. They're just so good in terms of like they're very competitive in group stages. I think VP's got the slight edge here.
Okay. I mean, it's interesting as well because, you know, Cloud9, they say they like to play Virtus Pro as well. So if Cloud9 were to overcome MouseSports and they were to play Virtus Pro, Cloud9 could conceivably top the group and go straight through to the quarterfinals. This is what I mean. This is why this group is insane. Because it's like...
This is the only group where 3 people can come out first.
Yeah, exactly.
Reasonably.
In an all reasonable assessment, any team can top the group. So it's really, really hard. I've gone overall for Virtus Pro. I think they're just in a good place right now, good form. All the dips in individual performance that were hampering them, seem to have gone. I'm intrigued to see whether they're going to keep utilizing Neo as an AWPer. I want to see if that continues. I think it came from nowhere and seemed to work for them at the last tournament they won, which was out in the States when it was SKYTTEN one. So, yeah, I'm interested to see what kind of Virtus Pro turn up. And that's the other thing as well. Virtus Pro is such a wildly inconsistent team. They could even bomb out. I mean, that's not beyond the realms of possibility either. Like, I don't think they will, but we've seen it happen before from that team specifically. So we then have to do the Group E elimination. So who ends up in Group E? This is where I need you, Duncan. It would be... Well, because it's the winner of... Sorry, it's the loser of the winner of Group A, isn't it?
Is that like some set?
Yeah, I think so. I think they've been drawn.
Can you see if you can find where that is?
Yeah, let me try and find it for you.
It'd be worth finding if it's specifically there.
Yeah, I should have done this already. I'll get Sam on this as well. Let me have a look. I've got the schedule in front of me, but I'm pretty sure they've already set it because we went over it on my other show. Fuck, I should have brought this up. Because, yeah, they're not drawing it live.
Okay.
But people are saying that it's random. I'm pretty sure it isn't.
Yeah, that's the problem. I don't know that part.
Is that correct?
If it really tells you, then we can figure it out.
Yeah. I'm pretty sure they did have a formula for it somewhere. I hope so. I mean, that's what Jared told me on the other show that I do, the Loadout. He might have just been insane and wrong, but he showed it to me and we sat down and figured it all out. But yeah, it might actually be.
Because the problem is on ESL's site, as far as I can tell, it just says they will be redrawn.
Yeah, you're right. It's a random draw. Fuck.
No. I can't see it.
Yeah. So that seems a crazy way to do it because...
I mean, it's bad, actually.
Yeah,
here's the thing. On what,
you could get
there's
fucked.
a positive, but there's also some negative. Here's the thing. In a way, I like it. In as much as this happens, okay. So, I don't like the seeding system they use anyway for the groups because it ends up with shit like Group C, number 1 and number 2 teams in the world playing each other. Group D, where you've got way too many good teams playing each other. I don't like that. So on the one hand, what I like about the redraw is it means that, for example, Na'Vi can lose to Fnatic but still be the best team in the redraw and get through anyway. Which I guess that doesn't really matter. Actually, that one doesn't matter. I guess they would have got out second in the group anyway. I guess it's Group D is the one I really like it for because now the third best team in Group D could get the right redraw and still get out anyway out of the next group. So I guess I like it for that. It's almost like a lower bracket in a weird way for the whole tournament to help the best team of the ones remaining still get out. The problem is, I think it's really inherently bad for a World Championship type event that literally... I mean, when are they going to redraw this? At the end of day one? So at the end of day one, someone tells you, in 6 hours, here's who you play in the rest of your group. What the fuck? I couldn't even prepare for that. Whereas, in theory, if you know the group, you can prepare for everyone, but you can't now. Yeah.
So the quarterfinalists, as we have it, is going to be TSM, Envious, Fnatic. Yeah, did we actually talk about Fnatic versus Na'Vi? Did we do that? I might have missed that out.
No, we missed that one, but I think Fnatic will win that.
Yeah, okay, fair enough. I mean, recent history points to that, right? And Virtus Pro. So then this leaves out of the sort of second tier teams, the ones that would need to go through in these redraws. You would have NIP would be guaranteed in one group, Kinguin in another, Na'Vi in another, and then it would be the way we've done it, MouseSports in another, and then this would leave the wildcard teams. So conceivably, Titan, Cloud9, and CLG could all be in a group with another top competitor. That's how it would work.
Yep.
So I guess we're sort of picking the best of the rest here. Like, no matter what combination of group happens, do you think NIP... Like, let's say, for example, if NIP got put in a group with Cloud9, which could conceivably happen the way we've done things, NIP done for?
Here's the thing about NIP. Because there's 4 groups, that overall, I think they will make it out. Their chances overall are that they will make it out. Because odds are they're going to be playing someone like Luminosity or Titan or CLG. Okay, so those are all very winnable matchups. NIP will win them. Their problem is if NIP plays Cloud9. Now, if they play Cloud9, I think Cloud9 will beat them. I think that will be close. For some reason, NIP, that's the type of team they always play well against. C9, they're the sort of team where they won't have like the arrogance to play them. They know that, like, hey, historically, these guys have always done well against us. I think that's the one that can be a spoiler. NIP can still win that, by the way, but I think I will pick C9 to win that. So essentially, in only something like 25% of cases do I have NIP going out of the group. So I think NIP will get through in that respect.
Okay. So NIP will get through. Obviously, we feel, again, I think out of those teams we've got in second place, I think Na'Vi would be the strongest. Na'Vi go through for me.
Against almost anyone, I think. I think it's
I think they're the strongest left in that sort of second tier, so I think they go through. So Cloud9, as long as they avoid a group with Na'Vi, and again, this is the way we've done things. I need to stress this at home. So if Cloud9 avoid Na'Vi and avoid NIP, although actually you're saying you would give it to them if they got put in a group with NIP. So as long as they avoid Na'Vi, you would put Cloud9 through as well, right?
Well, here's the problem. Can Cloud9 again get redrawn into a group that has Mouse again? Is that possible?
Well, yeah, theoretically, yeah.
Because the thing. Since I picked Mouse to win before, I'd probably still pick them to win the second time. So for me, the only scenarios is if they get Na'Vi or they get Mouse.
Okay.
So I guess there are a few banana skins there. But again, first of all, they can beat Mouse. That's not ridiculous. I don't think they'll beat Na'Vi. I think Na'Vi has an edge on them. But I think overall, Cloud9 is like my third best team to get out. Yeah.
I think last time Cloud9 played Na'Vi on a best of one, didn't Cloud9 win 16-14? So
in what tournament was that?
God, I can't remember. It was it might have been the first.
Face It.
Yeah, Face It. It was the Face It in Valencia.
Did it be Face It? Let me double check.
Yeah, it was. It was Face It Valencia because they won with an eco. It should have been overtime, and they won 16-14 with an eco rounds. Na'Vi ran into a stack in mid on cobblestone.
Yeah, you're right.
Yeah, 16-14. So I think, again, best of one upset. It's it's a tough one for me. I think realistically, you've got to say Na'Vi go through. I'm putting NIP through, obviously, because of Blondie, the psychic. It would be a travesty, I think, and I think the tournament would suffer quite a lot if MouseSports didn't go through. But this is where it gets ridiculous. So we've picked 3. There can only be one more, and you've got Cloud9, Titan, and Kinguin left.
I mean, for me, it has to be Cloud9 there.
Yeah, but of course, it totally depends on how the group's run. That's what I mean about the redraw. It seems a little unfair, potentially. Like, imagine that scenario where Cloud9 play MouseSports in the fucking group, and we know it's a good matchup for MouseSports, even though we both agree Cloud9 are the better team. We also agree MouseSports will probably win that game, and then they get drawn again in a group with them. They could
the worst one is, obviously, they lose to MouseSports here and then get drawn against Na'Vi.
Yeah, exactly. Imagine that. I mean, so that seems brutal. Don't get me wrong. I know we've talked a lot about draws in esports and how random are they? Like, down the years, we've talked about this. Yep. But I can't imagine ESL would want Cloud9 to go out of a tournament early. Because obviously you want the American teams to do.
I mean, they could beef up that analysis desk, remember, Mitch? So.
I've made my peace. I'm working behind the scenes. Maybe we.
Listen, Rich. I'd love to smoke the peace pipe, but then I heard that that's like illegal now at ESL events. So,
It is,
what's
mate.
in that pipe, mate.
It is, I'm afraid. So anyway,
actually, do you think ESL can do drug testing of the people who came up with that ranking system? Like, I think there might be not performance enhancers, obviously, but I think there might be some sort of degenerate activity going on in that office. People who came up with those world rankings.
There you go. Good news. Apparently, you can't get redrawn if you had them in your first group. So that's
okay. Well, in that case,
about it. So then, okay. So if that's true, then the worst case scenario is that they get through a group, they lose to MouseSports. They obviously end up then having to play like Na'Vi. That would
that's the only scenario I think they go out in.
Yeah. Okay. Well, that's good then. That's good. I'm glad that's true. That makes more sense. It would be fucking grotesquely unfair. So, okay. So now we're saying Na'Vi, MouseSports, Cloud9, and NIP. I mean, it is pretty much picked, right?
Yeah, so, especially if MouseSports can get that top spot in their redraw, essentially, because then they don't have to play NIP, C9, or Na'Vi.
So let's talk about the teams that sort of the bigger names that would be going out then. That means Titan would be out in the group stages of a major. They wouldn't get to the knockout stage. I mean, what does that mean for the team? You invest all that money to bring like Shocks and Smiths in. You get, a player like Shocks going out in the groups of a major. There's something a little bit perverse about that, isn't there, right?
I mean, it has happened once before. It happened at Katowice last year, but the problem is, I don't think it's actually that big a deal to figure out here because, first of all, like the redraw aspect, and then secondly, they're just too new as a team. They haven't had the team long enough. They haven't even played a proper LAN. They've only played that offline qualifier for this event. So I don't think the expectation is that they'll do super well. I think they're already an outside chance. So I think it's more like in the future it's going to be a problem. I don't think it's that big a deal that they go out here. I look at the teams here and there's so much quality. Yeah, it's fair enough that they go out, I think.
And Kinguin as well would be one of the teams that sort of bow out early. Now, given that we don't even know what's going to happen to the team, as I said, apparently there's several organizations in talks to buy the team, and Kinguin are looking potentially to sell the team to the highest bidder at this stage, and it would have to be a significant bid. But of course, it would be a good pickup for whichever organization gets them. There's a lot of talk that it would be gamers too. Ocelot from League's organization, potentially. They're apparently front runners. So I don't know, dude. I mean, I would kind of feel a little bit sorry for them. Kinguin have sort of won me over, like the more and more tournaments they've been attending. Like, after the Virtus Pro victory, I kind of was like, okay, this is a team you have to respect. It's not just 5 players running around like headless chickens, and there actually are a good team. So, but I mean, you don't think there's any way Kinguin can sneak in there?
Their best chance is from the group they have now. They've got Luminosity to play in the first round. That's one of the easiest first round matchups. And then Envious, in theory, the best team in their group is the one that's shown the least. Of all the elite teams in the group, number 1 type ranked teams, they're the ones that in theory you could steal a win off the most. So their best chance, they could already have a chance to get through. Beyond that, I don't think they've got any chance. I don't think they're going to beat teams like NIP and Na'Vi, etc. So I don't think they will go through, and I think that's fine. I think that's about where they should be. Maybe they have a chance if they get Mouse. Maybe that's a team.
Yeah, but it is what I mean, though.
For Titan and Kinguin, getting Mouse is basically your best hope. If you can get that group, maybe you have a chance.
Yeah, that's what I mean, though, because conceivably Kinguin and Cloud9 could be in a group. And you give that to Cloud9, right?
I think Cloud9's going to win that match, yeah.
Yeah.
The problem with Kinguin is they really do have to beast you aim-wise. So teams that have good tactics and good aimers, like consistent aimers, are the ones that should get their number most days.
Okay. And then just some final thoughts about what the teams that'll be the also-rans. Obviously, Renegades, they were saying that they had to make top 8. I don't know what they mean by that.
That's a dream world.
Yeah.
Just a dream.
Do you know what, though? Now that
happen.
I've seen, when I first talked about this on the show the last time, I didn't understand how fucking brutal the format was going to be.
It's like I said, I made this case for eBattle, remember? It's the team, and flip side, it's the teams that get the worst that get punished the hardest by the redraw. That's why I like the redraw in a way, because like I'm saying, it makes it very likely that a team like C9 is still going through, despite having 2 teams that would beat them in their group at the moment. So it's the worst teams that have almost no chance. Like for me, teams like Flipside, eBattle, and Renegades, I mean, it's just over for you guys. You have no chance of going through. I mean, you do win an outside chance, like it is best of 1, and who the fuck knows what those third map random draws. I hate that system. But even so, it's collectively, you teams are not going to the playoffs. It's not going to happen for you. And that's what should happen in this tournament. There's only 8 teams can make the playoffs.
Yeah. So let's just wrap up the show by talking a little bit about the format, because it's been a nightmare just getting my head around it. Obviously, we have best of one in the groups. We're doing it kind of GSL style. Then we go into a secondary group that's randomly redrawn, where everyone's going to play best of one again. And then the secondary teams, the team that tops that group is going to be the team that go through to make up the final 8. And then, as you said, once we get to the best of 3s, we've also got random third pick maps, which sort of makes the vetoes almost, a bit retarded in a way, right? Or rather, it kind of it's not a veto, So I don't know. It just feels like there's too much RNG going on at this fucking tournament, right? Like it's almost as if the tournament is set up in a way to create upsets. And I don't think that should be the job of a tournament format. I think that should be the job of the fucking teams that are playing at the tournament, the underdogs practicing hard and taking their opportunities to beat teams. This feels like it's almost like one draw could totally change the whole outcome of the tournament. Like one secondary group phase draw, you could have 2 good teams put together, and then they end up on a map where, actually it turns out it's going to be super close. Pistol rounds could end up deciding like a top 8 finish at a major. That just seems crazy to me to have it like down to the wire like that. So
let's not forget as well, Rich. This is an ESL tournament, a world championship for Counterstrike. Well, the head guy at ESL, at least in terms of IEM, etc., is Carmack. And he's stated in interviews that I've done with him in the past and many times before, he thinks that double elimination of any caliber is an inferior format, even though he's using it for his group stage here. And in fact, that teams who go into the lower bracket and then they have to win through, he claims that when you have single elimination, it shows more the championness of a team. So to him, if a team like Cloud9 goes out through the lower bracket, they get redrawn and they get out and they win the whole tournament, in a way they didn't really show that they were true champions,
Well, I mean, look, let's talk about a misconception here, because I've heard a lot of people say that it's actually Valve that dictate the format for majors. And I've never spoke to Valve about it. I don't often talk about tournament format. It's not kind of my realm, if you like. But if that's true, then surely, Valve have got to look at this and realize this cannot be the standard moving forward.
I don't know whether they determined this one. Like, I suspect for this one, maybe ESL had the input in the redraw part. That sounds like an ESL type idea to me. The rest of it, though, as far as I know, is dictated by Valve. Like, for example, they're the ones who repeatedly have done stuff. Like, they made us go back to the retail maps when the whole scene back in 2013 was using custom maps that had better improvements for competitive play on certain maps like Mirage, etc. Then they forced us to play Cobble and Overpass before they were ready and when both maps needed to be reworked. And then they forced this random map draw on us, which to this day, I don't know anyone who thinks it's good. Like, you can make a case for it in the group stage so that teams can't just avoid maps. But in those series, in best of 3 series, random third map draws for the third map decider are just cancer to me. That's like competitive cancer. So I think that's where Valve should not be having a say. There should be someone from the community who understands why that's bad and who fixes that.
Yeah, but more importantly, though, like, okay, look, I'm all for individual tournaments having, like we talked about, we praised the ESL for doing the Intel Extreme Masters in a unique way, so we get to see matchups and situations we don't always see. And we said there's a place for that in the competitive calendar. It's not that we want everything to be the same. But surely for majors, there has to be a consistent format and one that is conducive to the teams being able to, just the best team wins, the team that's prepared. Not,
we have to try and get if it's the best tournament with the best teams, we want the best format. And that doesn't mean stuff like, the more chance for upsets here. Yeah, why is that? Because you add random factors in and you purposely don't allow people to know who they're playing. You do all these things to fuck with the best teams. Do that in your shitty little tournaments that you run off the side where you want a crazy winner. The best tournament's supposed to show the best Counter-Strike. So let's just try and make the format fit that,
Yeah, that's kind of my feelings on it as well. Although, of course, not as strongly worded. But I think this format's ridiculous. Like, put it this way: it speaks volumes that me and you have had to sit here and I feel like I've got fucking a migraine coming on, just trying to actually talk about what happens. And then, okay, they're doing a random redraw, and then now this team could potentially play that team, and
Well, it was once again a complete failure in explanation. Like, I make this point again and again. Every time an ESL press release comes out, I'm just like, who did they run this by? Not anyone who understands tournaments. Because again, first question I had when I saw this redraw is, does that mean it's random? Does that mean I can't play someone in my group? How does the redraw get done? Is it done on the night? Like, we don't know any details of it. So you're announcing something really important. You haven't given any details. Why is that? How can people be this incompetent? I don't get it.
Yeah, I mean, I think that is, like I say, really, really ridiculous. It's such a shame, man. Like, as I want to be on board with this tournament. Like, ESL obviously are doing great things. I'm really excited about this sticker situation. Maybe empowering players because, I won't go on about this because we could probably talk another hour about it. But the player autographs, so the players are now getting the money. At least I hope that's how it's working. Certainly that's how it should be working. Something a little bit different. Big tournament. As I said, one of the most open majors I can think of for quite a while. The problem is now the format is contributing. Like put it this way, the way the scene has evolved right now, we're in such a good place. There's so many teams that, even though on paper they might be lower in the rankings, they've got great stylistic matchups. They all play each other on this great open circuit because we're not like Riot. It's not this North Korea bullshit. You can go to different events, different tournaments, pick and choose how you play. And different teams play each other quite regularly. So we now know there's matchups that actually work. And then on top of that, just the overall level of Counterstrike has just continued to increase and soar. Now we've got this world, an event that is ultimately going to crown world champions, huge payout, and, one or two little random things that happen along the way. We could see a team that'll win it, and we'll have to say they deserve it, but there'll always be the argument they didn't. And actually, it detracts from the achievement, Like, let's say you get that favourable second group draw and you come through and win the whole thing. There'll always be people who say, yeah, but you dodged all of these teams. You got a fucking lucky draw, Put
it this way, Rich. In Dota 2, they just had their world championship, the International. At the International, if you qualify for the group stage of the International, you have to play a minimum of, I think, 14 games before you can be eliminated from the tournament. In fact, even then, you're not eliminated. You go into a lower bracket. So I think it's a minimum of 15 games you would have to play, and then you're out. At this tournament, you play 2 and you're out if you're the worst team. And if you're a really good team who gets the wrong matchup, you play 3 and you're out. 3 single best of ones, and you're out of this tournament. I don't think that's a great system, just looking at it from that perspective, Yeah. Like, have more days, have a better system, have less randomness, let us know roughly who people are going to play so they can prepare. I think these are all positives that it's hard to argue against.
So I don't know, dude. Like I say, I don't want to I don't want to rag too much on it, but this format's ridiculous, ultimately. It is a bit, again, I'll always champion people trying out new things, but I don't think we need new things for a major. It's meant to be the focal point, the jewel in the crown of Counter-Strike, and it should have an easy to understand, classic esports format that is conducive to the best team being able to enter and just let the Counter-Strike speak for itself. Not random draws, not random map picks. Because that's the other thing as well. Once we get to the knockout stages, pick a map. Hey, guys, random for the third. That's,
I can't think of a worse system for a draw, basically. Here's the thing. This isn't even an ESL thing. Because like we said, as far as I know, it is Valve who determines a lot of these factors. But here's the thing. That doesn't mean you can go, oh, well, I guess it's not ESL's fault. No. ESL accepts that to run the tournament. So if I'm ESL, you can't. By the way, I don't want to hear ESL saying, well, Valve decided. Well, no, wait a second. They're your partners who you love to work with and you think they're great and know what they're doing in esports. So shut the fuck up. You sold yourself out there, mate. You could have just said that we just work with them for this reason. There should be pushback from ESL. By the way, if this same format exists for DreamHack, because remember the majors have been identical for every different organizer. If it exists for DreamHack, it's not like I'll just suddenly be like, great system. DreamHack hires me, therefore I think this is wonderful and I love the third map. No. I'll be equally as negative in this, or critical actually, and just say these are bad things. I don't like this. And I would, by the way, when I talk to DreamHack, I tell them you can't just take this from them. You have to tell them it can't be like this. The tournament's not going to be good if it's like that way. Here are the reasons why. Everyone should be pushing back. And if CS is this big, how collectively can the whole scene not get together and say, Valve, we have to do it differently than this? What, are Valve just unreasonable? They don't care? I'm sure that's not the case. So hopefully everyone can make progress, but there's going to be no progress if you accept it, say that it's fine, and say there's nothing can be done about it. That is when you know there'll be nothing changed.
Yeah. So just some final thoughts then. Like we'll move away from format, we'll move to pick a winner, and then we'll close out the show.
Okay.
So we've done the convoluted prediction thing. I didn't even know how the fucking format worked. I thought I did, and then it turned out I didn't. So that's my bad. Should have prepared slightly better. I was lulled into a false sense of security by my other co-host, Jared. But let's go for wins. Now, the way I had it all constructed in my mind is Envious and Fnatic in the final with an Envious win.
Okay.
What about you?
I mean, here's the thing. I think that there's a massive chance the winner of this tournament is Fnatic or TSM. I think just in terms of those two teams have the deepest map pool, the most overall talent in terms of people who can potentially be the star at any one time in the team. And then thirdly, they match up, they get the best against the most other teams. So bearing in mind, I don't know who will play who. Those are just the obvious picks that one of those two is going to win. And overall, I'd pick Fnatic at the moment because TSM's had their issues. Their map pool's actually what's been struggling slightly, but I still think they're both the overwhelming favourites. Beyond them, I think you've got Na'Vi, C9, and MouseSports. Let me think. Were those the ones? Na'Vi, C9, MouseSports.
I mean, obviously, I've got to qualify as well by saying, obviously, NiP are going to win because of the magic.
Yeah.
But yeah.
Beyond those two, I have like Na'Vi, C9, VP, and then as an outsider, Envious, I'll put those four as like the other four that on the right. If things go crazy, they'll win the tournament, but more likely they're just like, most of them are going to be in the semis. That's probably more reasonable for these teams, okay. Maybe the final with the right bracket draw. But otherwise, they're just top 4 caliber teams. Then, in terms of real dark horses, like teams who shouldn't win, won't win, but have some crazy outside shot. If things went perfectly and they got every perfect matchup and everything went correct, maybe NiP and Mouse are out there. Beyond that, the rest are all out in the group stage anyway. So that's about how my top 8 fix up.
The thing is, the reason I'm going for Envious, like, okay, a lot of it is predicated on how they played at IEM, which, as we established, it wasn't a super serious tournament. But there was nothing not serious about the TSM Envious matches. Both teams clearly wanted to win.
Sure.
And Envious, I thought, put on a masterclass. I mean, it's arguable that it wasn't even competitive in a lot of ways on 2 of the maps that they played. They looked so. I don't know. It's like, do you know when you just get some sort of feeling? Like, look, obviously, the head, the just cold analytical stats man is saying Fnatic to win it, and I definitely recognize TSM have a chance, but I just think Envious, like, everything just seems to have aligned for them. They're looking like so good, like individually, their levels of performance all seem to have jumped up. You've got Kenny S coming back. Finally relieved of the fucking pressure of like, right, I've dropped 50 frags and we've lost again, have we, Titan? Yeah, this is wicked. I love my life. Like, you know what I mean? That's like being in hell. Like, so for him to now be in it, be free from that, perhaps working with an in-game leader that's more willing to embrace how he wants to play and having better teammates that can take the pressure off him. Like, he's a bona fide star player, like, who has been underwhelming lately because of, I think, the environment he's had to play in. Now, I think you just combine all of that. I honestly think they can win the major. I know it's not a popular opinion. I'll get absolutely mocked and ridiculed for it, especially if they don't. Even if they do, probably. But I don't know. I see a Fnatic and Envious final.
It's possible Envious can win. Like I just said, I have them in the group of the 4 teams who are sort of like other contenders, but not the favourite to win. I have them in that mix where they can. The problem there is we only saw them against TSM. So my question would be, what happens when they play against Fnatic or Na'Vi or VP? These are the sorts of teams where now I can see there being potentially problems in terms of map pool, good teams to match up against you. That's where it's going to be difficult. Maybe it turns out they are like a counter to TSM, and then we get a cool situation where TSM can't as Fnatic, but Envious counters them. But even so, the problem is to win the major, odds are you're going to have to go through like 2 of these other teams. So yeah, maybe you could beat a TSM, but will you beat Na'Vi if you play them? Will you beat Fnatic if you play them? At the moment, I'd say no. So that's why I have mine that way.
Okay. Well, so which one are you going to plump for? I'm going to nail you.
I'm just going to say Fnatic will.
Yeah. Okay. Cool. I certainly hope Fnatic give a good showing for themselves. I mean, I didn't know what to make of the way they sort of went out in Valencia, and you know, it does look to be a bit of a strange time for them. So I'm hoping that we're not going to see sort of the end of an era in that sense. But just whatever happens, man, it's going to be a great competition. Like I say, I'm a little bit disappointed with the format, but I'm still looking forward to it, actually. There's still like a bunch of great games, which I'll be watching tomorrow. I don't even know the rules. Like, is there... you can't restream. That's illegal, right? So
no idea.
I was maybe going to jump on a stream and like watch some games, but if the only thing I can show is my reaction to the game, then that's rubbish for everyone. I wouldn't bother doing that. So I might see if you can watch the game directly through the client or something. But anyway, fuck that. Just some final thoughts then, Duncan. A wonderful, wonderful week in Counterstrike. When are you next going to be doing anything, Counterstrike related? Because I've seen you're going all after that dirty Dota dollar right now, mate.
I mean, I obviously can't reveal the specific events because events like to do that themselves nowadays, but I will definitely be doing some events in October. I think that's right. Let me think. Is it October? Might even be September as well, actually. I'll just double check, actually, so I can tell you. Let me see. Actually, I've got events booked in September, actually, so I'll be somewhere in September on analysis desks again.
Awesome. What about any content? You got any nice surprises for us?
I mean, after this show, I'll probably release a preview I've got for this event, so it'll be like some more of my thoughts, but just written down, so you can just read them there, you know. So,
okay,
and
cool.
I'm sure after the event, there'll be. Usually whatever I do is like whoever had a really cool run through the tournament, I'll break that down. Like if some underdog team did a way better placing, and then usually one of the strong teams that does badly, I'll try and analyze that. So I can think there'll be quite a few videos that'll come out of this event. I think it'll be a great event. Despite all the problems with the format, what I've always said, and this is unfortunately what allows shitty formats to exist in CSGO, is that CS in general as a game always provides such good matchups, and the best teams always do find a way in all conditions to play so well that it makes up for all the shit of badly run tournaments or bad schedules or bad seeding. Somehow we always do get a good tournament out of it when you have enough good teams there, and there are definitely enough good teams here. So I think no matter what, don't worry about it. There'll still be a good tournament to be played.
Awesome. Well, look, dude, always great to get your thoughts. Always great to do this show as well. And if you enjoy the show, thank the people that make it possible, which obviously, it's me and Duncan. More me in a lot of ways, even though Duncan's the real draw, but, you know, I'm the string puller. But obviously Alphadraft do pay us money, which is the only reason either of us get out of bed these days. So if you want to support them, you go over to alphadraft.com. They do fantasy eSports where you can win a fuck ton of money. They have paid out millions of dollars. And, of course, they'll be running tournaments in conjunction with the major as well. So go over, register an account, get some picks, make some cash if you're good enough. And until then, thanks a lot for watching. Thanks a lot to Duncan. Thanks a lot to Sam, the producers. Again, thanks to Alphadraft. Thanks to you individually. Thanks to Blondie, the psychic. And until we see you next week, may all your drafts be alpha.